Good morning. I'd like to call this February 1st meeting of the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority to order. We'll start with, let the record reflect all commissioners are present. We're going to start with an invocation by Commissioner Elton Langford.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the honor that you've given each and every one of us to be sitting up here today, Lord, that we can make decisions to help our constituents out and to supply the well-needed water that's the lifeblood of this country. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for that. We just ask that you give this board the wisdom that it needs to make the decisions that would best suit you and will glorify you, dear Heavenly Father. We thank you for the other leaders that you put in charge, Lord. We just ask you to continue to give them the wisdom they need to help drive this country in the way that you'd have it to go. Be with our men and women that serve us, dear Heavenly Father, at home and abroad, and those people that put their lives on the line every day so that we can meet like we're meeting here today, dear Heavenly Father, to do the business of our communities. We just thank you for the rain that you give us. We ask you to continue to bless us and watch over us and keep us safe and out of harm's way. We ask these things now in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome some of our guests. We have my fellow Commissioner Ken Doherty from Charlotte County. We have Northport County Commissioner Debbie McDowell. Welcome. We have Jonathan Evans, the Assistant Administrator from, there he is in the back, from Sarasota County, and Hector Flores, the Assistant County Commissioner from Charlotte County. At this point, I'd like to go through our usual protocol of having everybody in the room introduce themselves. So why don't we start with Jessica?
Bob Wilson, Administrator of the Authority.
City of Northport. Debbie McDowell, City of Northport Commissioner. Ann Lee with the Authority.
Kevin Morris with the Authority.
Richard Anderson, Authority staff.
Terry Goldblum with HDR.
Michelle Martin with Public Risk Insurance Agency.
Jim Guido, Reservoir Resources.
And Doherty, Charlotte County Commission.
Tom Schrein, King Engineering Associates.
Chris Cosmo, King Engineering Associates.
Tiffany Mangold, Curtis Green Company.
Ford Roots with the Authority.
John H. with Atkins.
Mark Simpson, Manatee County.
Gary Hubbard, Charlotte County.
Marilyn Miller, Charlotte County.
Hector Flores, Charlotte County. John Shearer Consulting.
Blake Peters, Timmy Creed.
Jonathan Evans, Sarasota County.
Linda Schroyer.
Sarasota County.
David Cash, Sarasota County. Mike Spencer, GHD.
Urbano, GHD.
Tom Dobbs with the Authority.
Ashley Neely with Kimley Warren.
Mike Coates with Lawrenceville.
Great. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. We appreciate that. Before we continue down the agenda, I want to take a moment of personal privilege to talk about the forum that we had in Sarasota on January 19th. I thought it was an amazing event. I want to thank Mr. Lehman for putting that together, the organization, the speakers. I think it was a very successful event, and I hope it's something that we're going to continue every year because it not only highlights what's going on in the rest of the state, but it compares us to those folks, and we are really light years ahead of most of the authorities, and there are even regions within SWIFMA that are still trying to piece an authority together. So it's really great to see where we compare in relation, and I think they're looking to us to lead the way. So it's a great thing. At this point, we have public comment. Does anybody from the public have any comments on agenda items to be presented? Okay. With that, we're going to move on to election of officers. I'm going to pass the gavel over to Mr. Manson, and he's going to conduct the election.
just metaphorically. I don't actually have to have a gavel. So, but you're right. On the nominations, the one time a year where the general counsel gets to shine, I get to lead the meeting. And the whole big portion of that is for me to say, Board of Directors, the floor is open for nomination for both chair and vice chair.
Mr. Manson,
Yes?
if I would, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Alameo for chairman.
All right. Any other nominations for chair?
I'll second that nomination. I'll move to close that nomination.
All right. And we have a motion for closure of the nominations for chair. All in favor? Opposed? All right. Then we'll have a vote at this point, even though we only have one nomination for a chair who will be the chair at this point, Almeo. We have a vote then for his chair. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, congratulations. I'd like to open the chair now for nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Manson, in accordance with the rotation that we've been doing, we've moved Commissioner Mayo up to chair. I'd like to move Commissioner Langford from Desoto County into the vice chair position.
All right. Are there any other nominations at this time? Do I have a motion to close nominations?
Move to close the nominations.
All right.
Second.
All right. So all in favor of closing nominations?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. And then we have just formality. We'll have a vote for Commissioner Langford as vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations.
Okay, well, thank you all for that vote of confidence. If I start coloring outside the lines, I have 3 people at least that'll help me. And just so you know, there's no secrets. I've got Commissioner Dougherty sitting front and center. He's going to be like a third base coach with special secret hand signals if I make any mistakes. With that said, we are on item number 1 of the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would like to pull both items 4, the lease renewal, and also the other one is on the regular agenda. We're going to talk about that.
Okay, so
That's just item 4.
the chair entertains a motion, will entertain a motion on the consent agenda, all items except for item number 4, which has been pulled by Commissioner Constance.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Langford, seconded by Commissioner Constance. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That passes 4-0. Commissioner Constance.
Thank you. I'm sure you've all received the additional material with regard to the office space. And, I think this came up, I guess it was 5 years ago, and we had a discussion at our board meeting. We're really trying to understand the need for 7,500 square feet. If you look, most of it is storage. There are offices that are rarely occupied, such as legal counsel. This is a beautiful facility. There's a lot of space here. And so, Mr. Lehman, I'd like to understand what the need is for 7,500 square feet. It's $100,000 a year. You're asking us to approve $500,000 in rent.
Yeah, this is a lease renewal from 5 years ago, and actually 5 years ago we did downsize because we weren't exactly sure what we were going to be. Our original office space was a lot larger during the regional expansion program and lots of work going on. So we did downsize 5 years ago to the location we're at. It is centrally located along I-75, easy access to all 4 county administration centers. SwiftMud office is just down at the next exit on Fruitville. Their main working area is up at the Tampa office, so it's a lot of easy access. And just like all your utilities, none of your administrative staffs are located at your operating facilities. There's a differential of the duties to be done. One is operations, one is administration, finance, coordinating with our governments and other governments. So there are 10 people that are there. Richard, of course, kind of back and forth, 50-50, up there at the administrative center, down here at the plant. The rest of us are primarily based there. We do have administration. We do have all our finance, our HR, our engineering folks are there. All the design records are there, which have to be kept. All the record retention by statutes have to be kept. But it's beyond that. A lot of times that becomes dead storage to people, that you take a box of records, tuck it aside to meet the statute. We don't do that. It's easy access. I think, as you were saying, that we're leaders in the state. It's because our staff is efficient, effective. That's historical knowledge. We pull upon that knowledge all the time. I know there was questions asked, how do we come up with the engineering fees that we use? It's because we have those records. We can go back and look at them, pull them, easily access, and find out specifics, what we've done on past projects, how that leads to future projects. So, in my opinion, the space is utilized greatly. We are effective as a staff, both administratively, financially, and engineering-wise, technical services.
How often do you access those records?
Pretty regular. Real regular, as a matter of fact. Matter of fact, when you asked for all this information, we went and got it. The engineering, we had questions about the engineering fees. Do you go by a base percentage? No. We went back and looked on the records and find out, project by project, past pipelines, the specifics of those pipelines. Was there a river crossing? Is there subaqueous crossing? Is it 24-inch ductile? Is it 48-inch steel? We have all those records at our fingertips to go pull. And I realize that, you walk into any administration offices, the first thing you see are conference rooms, meeting rooms, general access areas. So all that's included. It's not just offices, it's meeting space administratively. We regularly hold meetings with your staffs, SWIFMUD, other agencies, and I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And I'm not saying that a satellite office isn't necessary, but I'm thinking something more like 2,500 square feet, not 7,500 square feet. I think you could get by with storing a lot of this stuff at this facility or in a storage location near at a far lower rate. I just think this is excessive. And you have a legal counsel office. Mr. Manson, how much time do you spend in that legal counsel office?
Well, different people in my firm do it, but that's probably about one day every 2 weeks that we're in there.
I have real issue with this. So then the comparables you're showing us, if we were going to get out of this lease moving forward, are all 7,000 to 8,000 square feet, as opposed to showing us other options in the 2,000 to 3,000 square foot range. So I have a real issue with this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other commissioners have any comment on this? Commissioner Burnett.
I just want to ask on the records. So are the records things that you're putting on, you're digitizing, or are they backup records? Are they all plans? I really didn't.
It's all our records, and you make a great point that should we start digitizing more into the future, and I think absolutely that's one thing we're going to have to start looking at in the coming years. We're required by, obviously, DEP to keep all the plans, which of course are good size, the signed and sealed ones that maintain forever and a day, the bond requirements that we keep all the records that we use to spend bond money on, meeting materials for the organization you have to keep forever and a day. I think we sent out yesterday, it's like a mind-boggling 10-page thing of all the different records and how you maintain those, and if somebody wants public record request, that you have to be able to get them that. We did try prior years storage off-site. It became the lost and forgotten records that out of sight, out of mind. You forget they're there, you don't utilize them, and then you go back in 10 years and have somebody shred them. And they do have to be maintained in a climate-controlled area. I know in the past there were some that were storage in our prior attorney's garage, which when we went to get them, we had to knock a rat's nest out of one of them, and they were all dog-eared and eaten. So this has worked well. It's functioned well. I understand the comments on the size. I think in the future, just like you said, if we start digitizing and become more electronic, I think there is a plan we can develop for the future.
Commissioner Constance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Benak, that's a great point. I appreciate that comment. And so I would throw that back in your court, Mr. Lehman. I guess I don't understand why this wasn't brought to us 2 or 3 meetings ago so that we could have an understanding of this was the proposal, and then we could come to you and say, okay, how about this as a counter proposal? Start looking into digitizing right now. Get a smaller office moving forward, and take those records, move them here or someplace where you can start the digitizing process, because the money we're going to spend on rent, above and beyond what we should be spending, those monies could be put toward man-hours to digitize those records, the majority of which could be imaged and kept in a much smaller server kind of situation, and then they would be much more easily accessible. There's efficiencies there. So, Mr. Chairman, I would move to postpone this item for one meeting and have Mr. Lehman come back. We can go month to month with the current lease, and just try to get a better look at what the efficiencies would be. And I think we can give him an office in the same location so that it's accessible for things that he needs to do for that satellite, and accessible to Tampa and all the things that he's asking for, but be more efficient moving forward, because this is a long-term plan. And I really don't feel comfortable investing $500,000 for the next 5 years.
We have a motion to continue item number 4, the consent agenda, to our next regular meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to continue item number 4 to our next regular meeting. All those, would you like to speak any further, either of you?
I just want to ask a question, because I don't know
Yes.
the answer to this. Does this jeopardize anything that we have as far as pending at this point, if it is continued for one meeting?
The lease expired in March, and I think the lease is written, if you go month to month or whatever, you pay 150%. Yeah. And I will say that, Ann did her due diligence. We had proper people come in and do a study. We've always been located in that general area. Originally, Chris, you were in Manatee. We were at the Q House when we were the startup group, but ever since that time, we have been located within that general vicinity, and a lot of it's the location. And I would invite, I don't know if any of you have been in our office. Oh, yeah, Commissioner Nance. So I would certainly invite you to come take a look before you decide things too.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I've been to the office, and I've seen the office, and it's I understand where Mr. Pat's coming from, talking about the storage of different things and all, because I worked with the property appraiser's office here in Desoto County, and we had to keep records and all that stuff too, and we did not have the room in the courthouse to keep our stuff with us, so it was put out at GPW, the old state facility, and not climate control, different things, and it's aggravating to have to go to dig through boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff, because nobody never puts nothing back where it's supposed to in those facilities like that, or you're going to wind up, and who knows if that roof goes leaking or whatever. We had documents destroyed because of stuff like that. It's been working the way it has been. I don't have a problem with us renewing it. I know it's a lot of money. I understand where you're coming from with that, but I go back to the old saying: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's been working. It works good for us. I could probably get on board. Was trying to do something different if I seen it was costing all of our end users a pile of money for us to have it there. But everything's been the same for years around here. Our costs have been the same. Everything's been the same. So I'm not going to vote in favor. I'm going to vote in favor of us renewing the lease and staying where we're at, just because I know how much it's going to entail to have to pack up, move, and get all that stuff done. And if you don't have your records right there with you, it's a pain in the butt. And if you ain't never done it before, you ought to think about that part of it, because it is. When somebody walks in that courthouse or walks in anywhere that they want to see them public records, they don't want to have to wait a week or a week and a half. And if you can show them to them right then and say, hey, here we are, buddy, here's everything that you need right here up front. If you tell them, well, I have to get back with you, they're thinking you're going to be trying to hide something, whatever. So I have no problem with it myself.
Commissioner Constance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate that, Commissioner Langford. And I don't know that I'm really as interested about moving it off-site to storage as I am about digitizing, because I think that makes it even more efficient. If somebody wants a record it's going to be readily available. And I agree with you. I don't think offsite storage is that good an idea. But this is not about, that it's not working in the current state, but it's not fiscally efficient. And we have a duty to the ratepayers and a duty to the citizens if we can build a better mousetrap to try to do that. And so we've gone through the digitizing process. We had our whole floor level part of our courthouse. We've run out of space in Charlotte County. We're in the process of digitizing all records, and it's probably 70–80% of the boxes down there, and imaging them and then getting rid of and destroying those old papers. And we've discovered over, 20,000 square feet. I mean, it's a fair amount of space down there that we're going to be able to move attorneys and so forth. So it's just a question of, this has worked for years, but we're in the digital age now, and I think that we should look at that. And the money we'd be spending on rent, probably in the first year, we could put towards digitizing and then be saving a lot of money for years to go forward. I just would like to get that answer at the next meeting, and then if it doesn't look like it's going to be efficient, or there's roadblocks, or we find out that a lot of the documents can't be digitized, well, that's another story. But I don't even know that we have that information, so I don't feel comfortable moving ahead with a 5-year commitment. 2 or 3, maybe, and then we could do some sort of a study. But 5 years is too much of a commitment for me. We're locked in.
Anyone else? Well, let me just add this. Our next meeting, I should have set it to a date certain, is April 12th.
Right.
So, Pat, either you or Ann, does that cause us a 50% jump for March and April, or just April?
It would be starting in April.
Okay.
Paying $20.26 a square foot plus CAM.
Okay. So, all right, a $4,000 or $5,000 jump. Is that what it amounts to? Okay.
Can I?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Does anybody have an idea of what this digitizing stuff costs? Has anybody looked into that to see? Because I know we've looked into it several times, and it's pretty expensive.
It is on my to-do list, because I am part of the digital age. But the issue isn't just the cost of getting it done. It's we have to have new servers and more server space first. So this isn't something that we could do within a month or two. We have destroyed a ton of records, because when I first started 2 years ago, I found stuff from the 90s, AP records from the 90s, which we did not need to have. So we have cut down a lot, but we still have a lot of things. And we are in those constantly, because we don't just have the engineering records and the stuff for the plant that we have to keep forever. We have all the accounting records, all the finance stuff, all the employee files, which have to be locked up. So there's a lot more to do, and there's a lot of things you can't digitize. We can't digitize employee files. So there's just a lot more issues. I would like to do it, but it's going to take, a year or two to set it up and make sure that we have the server space and the room to put it and have it coordinated in a way that's easy to access.
Okay. Commissioner Bennett.
Well, I think we're going to have to move toward digitizing regardless, because the record access, I know in Manatee County, our clerk's office, everything is digitized, and it's wonderful for the public to have that access.
Right.
Because it's kind of the opposite. People have immediate access to digitized records. And I get that it's expensive and it takes time, but to me, that's going to have to be done regardless of a space issue.
I agree. It will need to get done eventually. It's just putting together the timeline, because we have other projects that are in the works that have to get done before we digitize stuff.
Okay. Anything else?
I just, again, I'm the newbie on the board. This is coming up. A 5-year commitment is a long-term commitment. I don't know if the space is necessary or not. Things have changed significantly for me just walking in the door here. It looks much nicer than the last time I was here. So I really don't have enough information to make a 100% decision. I hate the idea of costing that much money. I would hope that, I don't know if we could get any kind of a break for 1 month from Ms. Goldstein or not. I know Susan fairly well.
Well, Susan just did the market study. She is not involved with the landlord.
Oh, okay.
I just contracted her to do the market study, and we did not get it back until mid-December.
Okay.
So it was after the time period of being able to bring it to the last board meeting. but I'm going off of what her advice was.
Sure.
And she does do some side work for the owners of our building.
Okay, sure.
She also did say that they would be interested in possibly selling it if we were ever interested in purchasing that space.
Well, I'm sitting here wondering how I'm going to vote, and just at this point, for me, it's just not our new member, Commissioner Benak. There's a lot of unanswered questions. I did the math quickly in my head. You confirmed it. I hate the idea of spending, some would say wasting that $4,000 or $5,000, but I think at this point, there's a bigger amount of money. So I'll call the question. We're on item number 4, the consent agenda. We have a motion on the floor and seconded it to move this to a date certain, Wednesday, April 12, 2017, our next board meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion on item number 4 moves forward 3-1 with approval. Now, I used an old agenda. I apologize. The new agenda added consent item number 6. Mr. Dougherty, Commissioner Dougherty, you did a poor job of keeping me on track. So you're fired. You're fired as of right now. All right. And it's a shame because this is a letter of recommendation for a good friend, a longtime friend, who is with. He's here as Mr. Moran with resigning from the governing board of Swift-Mud, but he's now Commissioner Moran of Sarasota County. So I'd love a motion on consent item number 6.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Constant, seconded by Commissioner Benak. All those in favor on item number 6 of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That passes 4-0. We are on the regular agenda. Item number 1, water supply conditions, and that's a staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, fellow board members. There we go. For the record, Richard Anderson of your staff. This, as you said, is water supply conditions update. This is just an information item only. As usual, we take a look at the rainfall the last couple of months. This graphic usually shows a 1-year rainfall average. I went back this time 15 months to kind of capture what happened last fall and winter, October through December, compared to this year. As you can see on the left side of the graph, we pretty much had average rainfall October, November, December, and then a big jump in January last year. This year, if you look on the right side of the graph, a different story. We've been below average rainfall since about September. Even though we had good totals and we had good flow in the river, the rainfall has been below average. You can see just a trace in November and about an inch in December. And actually through this graph goes through the 18th of January. We had just about a half an inch there. Fortunately, we got some good rains the last part of the month, and we ended the month just below 2 inches for the month of January. So hopefully that'll pick up, but it looks like we may struggle through the spring with rainfall. River flows obviously follow and track the rainfall. As you can see, since September, there's been a steady decline. The blue graph or blue line is the actual rainfall, and the green is the historical average that the river basin sees. So you can see when you get down to January 17 here, where December, January, we're well below even the historical average there. So, but still just above the red line, which is the minimum the minimum flow that we need to withdraw water from the river. So, just flirting with that line right now. River withdrawals also, again, declining since September. As you can see, we were taking about enough to maintain storage for the first, from September through October. Then it declined down to just barely minimal withdrawals there. As you can see, in December, we took out about 7 MGD, and January about 5.5 MGD so far. So.
Yeah. Commissioner Constance.
Yes, sir.
Richard, great report so far. So You know, we had in pre-agenda discussion about the fact, and we're going to talk about this further down in the agenda, but the maximum allowed withdrawals with regard to the permit. So the reason why your scale says 120 there is that's your max.
Yes, sir, correct.
Do we ever get there? I mean, I don't ever recall seeing, I mean, this chart goes back three years. Is there ever sufficient flow that we can, and do we have the pumping capacity to pull off the 120 million gallons a day?
I'll answer your last question first.
Okay.
Yes, we have the horsepower to withdraw 120 MGD if the flows are in the river. That's correct. The last couple of years, I backed up one slide here to the river flow graph.
Right.
We're allowed to take a percentage of the flow in the river, and as the river flows increase, that percentage goes up from about 16% up to about 28%. Obviously, there's a point when the river's flowing way more than we can pump at 120. So there's definitely periods of time when the 120 is available. We could pump it, but the last couple of years we've been so full that we really haven't had to run the pumps at max speed or max capacity. So when I go back forward here to this graph, the withdrawals, you can see the last couple of years, because the rainfalls have been favorable, we've only had to run the withdrawal system at about half speed because we know we've got so much water. Why waste the energy and the pumps and all that? We just pump for longer periods of time to top off the reservoir. Now going back to May of 12, you can see there that 1 month it was fairly dry. We had come out of a spell where we had almost no water to pump on the graph on the left. So we quickly filled up and ran the pumps pretty much at capacity to get them full, and then came back down into a maintenance mode.
So as soon as the rains came, you cranked it up and you resupplied the capacity that you had lost.
Correct.
So the reason why we're not seeing high withdrawals for the last few years is our end game is we've been pretty full.
End game's we've been full. We've been able to optimize the river flows and not burn energy to fill it up quickly and then just sit there and not pump.
So if we were able to get this chart back to 05, when the REP came online and you were really starting to fill, we'd see days where we were closer up toward the hundreds.
I suspect
as
so,
we were in
yes.
the filling phase.
Right,
Okay.
right. A lot of uncertainty back then when it was brand new. No one knew what was going to happen. So you want to fill it up quickly because some water is better than no water, obviously.
Right.
So you want to get it full and be prepared. So as time's gone on, we've learned how to optimize it and run the system.
Okay.
So,
Very good.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now surface water storage, again, as we just talked about, we've been fairly full the last 3 years. Right now, we are at about, when I put this chart together, about 5.3 billion. Today, we're already down to 5 billion on the total storage for the surface water system. So it's mimicking more going back to about 2013 here. So we can expect as the next couple of months come through, we're going to start using more storage than we have in the last couple of years. ASR system, again, is full. That was, we stopped recharging in November. We just started up today, actually, taking some water out of the ASR system to augment the surface water. So the next meeting, you'll see some withdrawals coming out of the surface water system, or excuse me, the ASR system.
Can I ask a question about
Yes, Commissioner.
So is the purpose of doing that for water quality? Do you blend it? Is that why you do it?
Yes, ma'am. It's blended. The water from the ASR system was withdrawn and put back into the large reservoir, Reservoir 2, and it's blended with all the surface water and then run back through the plant for treatment.
So that is not, is it, like I said, for water quality issues or quantity as well?
The way we operate it is for both reasons, water quantity. As we start looking at the future trend line of when we're going to run out of water, we say, okay, we need to start ASR to, delay the slope of that line a little bit, so we make sure we make it to the wet season and we can fill everything up again. So.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
and I hate to keep peppering Richard with questions, but this is good because we're learning. We've not really been dealing with withdrawals for a while. So my question with the surficial supply and the reservoir is, from an engineering standpoint, is it better for it to be kind of full with the way it's engineered? Is it better to have it the levels go up and down with regard to wall stress? We've never really had the opportunity to ask you that question, or it doesn't matter.
I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I know from being around it. It's designed to be full of water for 50 years or 100 years. It's,
Okay.
it's built to hold water, and so
And there's no issue,
reason.
if it were to get drained fairly far down, it's not going to hurt it and then bring it back up again?
No,
The
no.
exposure of the liner and things like that, it's not going to be an issue?
That's what it's designed to do.
Okay.
So.
Richard, let me ask you one question. I remember from our last meeting, weren't we at 12.6, 12.7 billion gallons? So since the last meeting, the total storage has dropped
Correct.
500 million gallons of water.
Correct. We're down, and actually, we're now, this was as of the 18th, we're at about 11.75 right now, total storage, with ASR still at about 6.7, and the reservoir at about 5 right now, today.
So we're at 11.75, so
Yes, sir.
about 800 million gallons, less than we were at the last meeting, total storage.
I don't, yes, it was about, it was a high 12s last meeting, so correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's switch now to production. This is the December production data. This is the latest data that we have available from the members and our staffs. For December, pretty good, pretty high flows for December, pretty high demands, 28.5 from the authority, about 44.7 from all the customer facilities. Total capacity, total delivery was 73 MGD average. 3.3 of that went to non-authority customers served by Manatee County. Total usage within the authority system was just about 70 MGD for December. Now, looking at county by county, for Charlotte County, you used just over 12 MGD from the authority, produced about 500,000 a day from your burnt store facility. Total usage was about 12.5 MGD for December. Going down to the bottom graph, which is the historical, the blue are the annual averages for the water years. You've seen those numbers before. You can see on the right side, water year 2016, which ended in October 1st, your number was 10.7. The red bar is the 12-month running average, which just happens to be the calendar year. So January through December, you can see your usage was 11.1. So a slight trend up there in usage. But again, December was really high flows. There was a lot of demands. It was dry, and the holidays were on the weekend, so there was a lot of demand for that month. DeSoto County, they used about 0.9 from the authority and about 0.3 from their system. Total demand was 1.2. Again, theirs was relatively flat going back to the fiscal year 16, 0.97, calendar year 0.95. So basically still running about the same. Manatee County supplied almost 33 million gallons to their customers within their service area, exported about 4.1 to Sarasota County, and again supplied 3.3 to their consecutive customers out on the coast, for a total of about 40.3 MGD. Looking down at the bottom graph again, through the water year 16, 31.22, and then the 12-month average for the calendar year jumps up about 500,000 gallons, so you're 31.77 for calendar year 16. And in Sarasota County, for the month of December, you used 14.3 from the authority, imported 4.2. 4.1 of that was from Sarasota County. About 0.6 was from the city of Northport. And then you self-supplied about 1.6 MGD from your facilities at Carlton and Venice Gardens, for a total of 20.1 MGD for the month. Looking at your totals, historical averages, 19.22 again for the fiscal year, and your calendar year was 19.3. So relatively flat, just a slight tick up for you folks.
Can I ask you, Richard,
Yes.
what's the thing, Mr. Chairman? What's the 2.6% average is what? Is that the slope of the line?
Yes, sir. That's the slope of the line for the blue bars only. I didn't slope the red, so that's just the average growth over that 7-year period.
Okay, so if we go back to DeSoto, is that a negative slope? Because that line's going in the other direction. It says 2.1 on my sheet. Doesn't say anything up there, but is that?
I'm not sure why the line, it looks, yeah. should be a flat line, really.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get an understanding, because, obviously, if it's 1%, it's going to be pretty flat. If it's 2 or 3%, it's going to start to slope upward. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll blame that on PowerPoint.
It's always Microsoft.
Commissioner Benek?
I'm going to ask a question too on the Sarasota, okay, you have on the Manatee County, the export to Sarasota County, and then the import from others, but I thought you said it came from someplace else, so I was kind of confused by that.
Yes, ma'am. Manatee delivered 4.11 to Sarasota. Sarasota took the 4.11 from Manatee and also .06 from the city of Northport.
Okay,
So
I
imported-
just heard the city of Northport, and I thought, well, that didn't make sense. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And now, city of Northport. Here, now it becomes clear. You've got, they purchased 1.2 from the authority, produced 2 million gallons of their own, from their own facilities, and then they delivered .06 to Sarasota County. Total usage was 3.14. Again, the slope of the line there shows the blue bars. If you look at the right side, you've got 3.1 for the fiscal year, 3.04 for the calendar year, so it's relatively flat for comparing those two numbers.
Do we assume that that .06 that they're delivering is from their RO plant, or it could be water that came through the authority and then went back to Sarasota?
It comes through an interconnect in their distribution system, so it could be a blend of any water. It's just water that's in their distribution system. And then finally, the regional demands, summing up everything I've just showed you. For the 12 months of the fiscal year, 68.6. About 800,000 jump there between the fiscal year and the calendar year, 69.4 for the calendar year 16. And I know the question was raised at the last meeting about looking to the future with this graph, and Mike Coates is going to address that in a slide he's got in his presentation later on. So. And then the final slide, as usual, is the utilization for the month of December. Again, we use 73.15 as a region. That left 31.5 available. That's about a 70% utilization region-wide. So with that, we're happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Great report. We're on item number 2, Peace River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Fiscal Year 2016 Financial Statement and Independent Audit Report.
I would like to introduce Tiffany Mangold from Purvis Gray and Company. She will be reviewing our 2016 audited financial statements.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Once again, I'm Tiffany Mangold with Purvis Gray. I'm a CPA and audit manager with Purvis Gray and Lakewood Ranch, and I'm here to present your annual audited financial statements and audit reports in draft form. This is similar to the process we did last year, to where we don't have the current GASB 68 information included in this report, so you will see the green highlights just throughout the report, as you have seen in the past. So the audit is complete except for that one thing. That information is the FRS net pension liability. It's audited by the Florida Auditor General, and it was released January 13th, and we're still in the process of reviewing it. So as soon as we have that done, we will get that information in the final report. And today we're asking that you receive this report. Sorry. Ask me any questions if you have them, and then approve it ultimately pending completion and management supervision of the final report. So in your packet, you will have something that looks like this. It's about a 40-page document called the Financial Statements and Independent Auditors Report. If you want to turn with me, you can. If not, that's okay too. But pages 1 and 2 are the Independent Auditors Report. That just basically says that it's management's responsibility to prepare and fairly present the financial statements. And as auditors, it's our responsibility to express an opinion on those financial statements. And we've expressed an unmodified opinion, which is basically the best opinion that you can receive. So further back in the back of the report, pages 37 and 38, it's just your report on internal control. Not much to talk about there. You have adequate controls for the size of your organization. Page 39, it's just an attestation report on investments that's required now to be included. And then pages 40 and 41 are your management, that's your management letter. And we did not have any current year findings or prior year findings to discuss in there. So overall, a very clean report. You also did not have a single audit this year. There was a change in the uniform guidance requires that if you have grants above $750,000, you are required to have a single audit. But your grants from federal and state agencies did not exceed that. So your report's a little smaller this year than it has been some other years.
750 individually or in total?
Individually. So state 750 and federal 750. So in the past it was 500,000. So if you're comparing it, you'll see that your counties and cities this year too. The other report I have, you apparently don't have, I'm sorry about that, but we will get this to you. It's called Communication with Those Charged with Governance, which is you all. So in here, it's actually a technical report, and it's made for audit committees. So in here, we're just saying that there are no audit adjustments, there were no disagreements with management, and we did not have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. So like I said, overall, a very clean report. There were 2 new GASB standards this year, GASB 72 and 79, about investments. So it's just saying that investments are now going to be disclosed at amortized cost instead of fair value. And you guys have the SBA and the Florida Local Government Investment Trust, but you'll see it a little more in your counties and cities, that new standards that have come out. So the next thing is just a brief overview of your finances. I really don't have this, so I'm sorry I keep clicking it. But if you want to turn in your report, you can look at page 9 with me. This is your balance sheet, and it reflects that you have a financially sound organization, which you've heard a few times now, and you have good leadership. And I just wanted to bring your attention to one number about 2/3 of the way down. It says 1.9 million. It's highlighted in green. It's the second highlighted section. And that's your retirement system net liability. The 1.9 million is, again, your 2015 number, and it will be updated. This year, based on my initial review, it seems like it'll be about 2.8 million when you get that final report back. So, and the next page that I'd like you to look at is the income statement on page 10. Yes, sir.
Instead of asking questions at the end, can we just?
Sure,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that privilege. So is the 2.8 something that we're?
It's nothing to do with you. I'm sorry. You
Go
can
ahead. I mean, is that something that's expected?
Yes.
Okay.
So I can give you just a really brief overview real fast. Last year, the FRS liability is for all counties and cities, as you know, who are involved. Last year, the unfunded liability was 12.9 million, I believe. And this year, it's 25.2 million for just the FRS. There's a little bit more in the HIS portion, so it's more than that.
But that's statewide?
Just the FRS. That's statewide, yes, sir. Oh. So it was a $10 million loss just in the FRS portion. So that's why. I mean, you guys weren't hit as hard as some other places. You will see it in your counties and cities. And once I finish the review of everything, I could actually send you guys a little more clearer schedule, which would identify, and I'd be happy to explain any of that to you. Okay. If you have questions on it.
It's just it's a hot button issue. So whenever the word FRS or retirement comes up, I want to get more information.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to explain that to you for sure, definitely. So,
thank you.
But yes, it's nothing you could have helped. It's a statewide issue. You just have a percentage of this overall liability. So.
Thank you.
The next one's just your income statement, and it's on page 10. So about 2/3 of the way down, there's the loss before capital contributions of $5.4 million. You always have a loss here because of your depreciation, but last year you had a $7.4 million loss. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. A lot of it was because of the bond refunding. So 838 of it was due to bond issuance costs last year, 842,000. But the main thing I wanted to say is that this year your interest expense has decreased $633,000 based on that refunding that you did. So great job there. So that, like I said, includes your depreciation, which is $11.9 million. So if you want to turn one more page, that's the statement of cash flows, and it does not include depreciation. You have $11.9 million in depreciation and $380 million in capital assets. So it's about 3% per year that you're depreciating. So this schedule is your statement of cash flows on pages 11 and 12. It doesn't clearly show it, but if you just look at where it says cash and cash equivalents beginning of year and compare it to cash and cash equivalents end of year, your cash has increased about $300,000 in 2016. So,
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I'm not a financial guy. I've had to become one. You know, all of us have to. But, I mean, because you're just depreciating 3% per year on paper, that's kind of an imaginary number.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So where do we really stand? I guess that's, I mean, for me, I'd rather know, you know, we've got revenues coming in, we've got expenses going out, and, you know, for me, in my public brain, depreciation is all about corporations being able to keep taxes out of the government's hands and using fancy tax code formulas to not pay their fair share.
Right.
We're a public entity, so that's not coming in here. So what's the utility of claiming depreciation? Is it because, well, go ahead, start there, and then I may have other questions.
I may not be able to answer very well, but I will try my very hardest.
Sure.
So the way I understand it is that your capital assets are depreciating quicker than you're paying off your debt. So that's kind of why it's low. But on the basis of how the authority's doing, I can't say too much without including that $11.9 million. But if you had operating income above the line before these non-operating revenues and expenses of $4.5 million, which includes your depreciation. So we could add back that $11.9 million, and you'd be at about $16 million operating income on the authority side. And then,
Right, so the point is that the receipts you're getting in are hard dollars. The depreciation is considered an expense, except it's imaginary.
Right.
Other than, again, stop me if I'm saying something wrong, other than at the end of the line, because there's wear and tear and things have to be done with repair and renewal and replacement, are we sort of thinking about that and working that into the formula now?
it's not included in your rate currently, the depreciation. So that's why you're ultimately losing money, showing a loss, because you're not including that in your calculation of your rate. I'm not sure if you should. I'm sorry about that. But I think that's something possibly to discuss. You have good rates right now, the 74 cents.
We have great
so-
rates.
Yeah.
And
So.
that's not the issue. I just want to, you know, I guess I'm assuming that maybe we're a little bit better on the balance sheet than we're showing, because this depreciation isn't, in my mind, isn't really real.
Right.
I mean,
That's
you
exactly
know,
right.
I mean, you
It's
drive
just-
a car for 5 years and it's depreciated 100%. Guess what? It still takes gas, it still starts, and it still drives down the road. It still has value, and you're not having to buy a new one, so that's so there's an efficiency and a savings there. So, you know, this is the first time I'm asking these questions,
That's
so I'm not
okay.
singling
I'm sorry.
you out.
It's the first time I'm answering it.
I'm just trying to get a better understanding of why we even throw these types of numbers in a public entity, as opposed to, I know why private companies do it, because they get to pay less taxes, but that's not the issue here.
It's just required by GAAP, which is why it's included in your
Sure.
report. So I'm not sure why it's required. I think just to give a good understanding of where you are, just like your net pension liability, that's an imaginary number too. That's if everybody retired tomorrow and we had to pay that out. So I think it's just to include those numbers, but it actually would be nice if they had a little reconciliation that said, ignore these two numbers. You know?
Right. Well, it may also be that, you know, we're a company, we're a public company, but we're a company. So it's being evaluated apples to apples, just like any other company, as opposed to we're evaluated in a different way. And that's probably why regulators have you do that. I'm ready for input.
Commissioner Benak.
Well, I know this issue came up. I serve on the Port Authority for Port Manatee, and we had a very similar discussion. And the problem is, without showing the depreciation, and then you're required to show it, everyone kind of freaks out because they see a negative number and they don't understand it. So you're better to have it and clarify what it is, like you're doing, I think, rather than to not show it and then be required to show it, and people see a negative number and they're like, well, where did that come from? What happened to you? So I know we had a similar discussion at the Port Authority because, of course, depreciation is part of the picture and is mandated to be part of the picture, right?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
So as much as you might want to see it, you know, alternative view, without it, be careful when you add it in because people will be, whoa, there's a negative number there. That's problematic.
You're both absolutely right. I've got an accounting degree, and I know what Commissioner Constance does during the daytime. That was a great analogy with the car, and that's important for us all to keep in mind. Also, you might have heard the audible gagging when you said 25 million unfunded and then said that's at the state level.
Yes.
Yes.
So you clarified that, which was nice.
No, you did. That's a big, that makes everyone jump out of their skins,
It does.
that number. So, thank you. Yes, Commissioner.
Just the trend is scary.
The trend is scary,
Mhm.
yes.
And you'll see that at all of your counties. So you saw it last year. I was shocked when I saw the decrease I guess the unfunded increase in that situation. I was shocked. I didn't think that would be anywhere close to that 10 million. And that's just the FRS side. The HIS side, I don't remember the number there. So,
And so I'm clear, and you will get to us the final with all the green highlights
gone.
And actuals in their place.
They are, yes, we're in the process, probably a couple more weeks, and
Okay.
we'll get the finals out, and we'll have to review them and Pat as well, and then get our reports issued and go. We have a concurring review process at our firm, so it's already gone through that for this draft, but it'll have to go through that again with the final draft.
So will we get this at the Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Will we get this at the next meeting or the meeting after?
If you guys can give it to them, then next meeting would be fine. Yeah.
Before the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
You accept it as a draft now.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
A move to approve, to receive and file the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority FY 2016 financial statements and independent audit report as submitted by Purvis Grain Company.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Constance.
Pending changes.
Pending changes. Seconded by Commissioner Langford. We're on item number 2 of the regular agenda. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you. Item number 2 moves forward 4-0. We are on item number 3. Let me read it into the record. Regional Integrated Loop System Phase 1 Interconnect Project. That's US 17 to Punta Gorda. It's parts A, B, and C. The Phase 1 Interconnect Project, based on a design report, and the work order number 2, Phase 1 Interconnect Final Design, Permitting, and Bid Phase Services with King Engineering. How are you?
Hi, Ford Ritza of your staff. As you mentioned, this is the Phase 1 Interconnect project. Everybody, I imagine, has seen this slide at least a few times. It's the Phase 1 Interconnect location maps. And on the left-hand side, it just shows where the Phase 1 ties into the regional transmission system in the southern part of Desoto County, and then it goes into Punta Gorda in northern Charlotte County. On the right side is the conceptual alignment for the Phase 1 Interconnect. And this actually stems back from the 2006 project that was carried through to about 60% and then interrupted in favor of the Phase 1A project. And in general terms, we tie into the southern end of our regional system up by the Desoto County Charlotte border and head south and east down to Punta Gorda water treatment facility. So today I'm just going to quickly talk about work order 1, the basis of design report, which is a deliverable, and then do an overview of work order 2 for final design, permitting, and bid phase services, and then end up with some motions to receive and file the basis of design report and to approve and authorize work order number 2. The draft basis of design report was presented by King at the December 7th board meeting, and the final report was sent out to all our regional partners in January. The Phase 1 Interconnect is a little over 6 miles long. It's a 24-inch diameter pipeline, and the purpose is to convey water back and forth between the regional system and the city of Punta Gorda's Shell Creek facility. There's 2 meter stations involved. One's up at the Desoto County South Booster Station in the northern section, and the other one's at the Shell Creek facility. During preliminary engineering, King looked at a lot of alignments, narrowed it down to 3, and all 3 would cross Shell Creek by horizontal directional drilling. The recommended route actually followed the 2006 route pretty close. It's called Route 2, except the horizontal directional drill, when we get down to the dam, is downstream instead of upstream, and it's also a lot longer. It's 3,500 feet long, and none of the pipeline will be installed in the embankments or on the embankments for the dam. And during final design, we'll be doing further geotechnical investigation at the horizontal directional drill crossing at Shell Creek. The engineer's opinion of probable cost for the total project is $11,960,000. And this is under the $12 million budget, which is funded by SwiftMud, the City of Punta Gorda, and state appropriations. And for the open cut portion of the project, including the meter stations and maintenance of traffic and restoration, it's about $6.7 million. The creek crossing is about $2.2, and there's money in there for mitigation and land acquisition, and a contingency of about 10%. With engineering services of $1,994,000, and that's based on a total project cost about 17%, and that's typically what we've seen over the recent interconnect projects of Phase 2, Phase 1A, and Phase 3A. The overall project schedule presented in the basis of design report, they wrapped up preliminary engineering with the deliverable of the BODR in December. Design will finish up the schedule in February of 2018 with bid services in November and startup of the Phase 1 in February of 2020. I'd like to move over to work order number 2. The cost ceiling for work order number 2 services is $1,079,693 for final design, permitting, and bid phase services. The overall schedule, if it's approved, they'll do the notice to proceed this month, and it's projected for the contractor notice to proceed for construction in January of 2019. Some of the tasks in the work order 2 are generally what you'd expect to see in a pipeline project. Survey, taking a look at underground utility conflicts and geotechnical investigations. We're doing a little more geotechnical investigation on this project at Shell Creek for the long horizontal directional drill. Ecological investigations for the species assessment and wetland determinations, and acquisition services, of course, engineering and design, and permitting with FDEP, and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and state and local right-of-way permitting. The major task breakout, which is in work order 2, is in your packet. Project coordination's about $125,000. Final design services are about $780. Permitting's about $110. Bid phase services are about $39, with an owner's allowance of $25,000 for the total of $1,079,693. And this fee for final design phase services is about 9%, and that falls in line with what we've seen on past pipeline projects as well. So we're pretty much in the ballpark all the way along here. For the final schedule for work order number 2, 9% submittal for design would be in February of 2018. Advertising would be in November of 2018, and we'd award the construction contract. It's projected in January of 2019. And as King mentioned in their December presentation, they've got a real conservative period of time for permitting in their schedule. they've got a year because of the uncertainties surrounding obtaining the permits. And if all goes well and we get the permits earlier, we could cut up to 6 months off the project schedule. So we're hoping that's the case. And with that, if there's any questions or...
Questions, Commissioner Constance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Permitting from who? SWIFMA, the state, DEP?
Oh, permitting's from FDEP for the ERP, and in wetlands, and the solvent submerged land lease under Shell Creek, and then U.S. Army Corps for wetlands determinations. That's the one that could be trouble obtaining.
So in your Exhibit B, with the way the compensation breaks down, final design services, $637,700 lump sum. So how is that further broken down? Is that I mean, because then they have another portion of final design services, which is time and materials of almost $142,000. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, you know, what exactly, because project coordination is once. Stop me if I'm incorrect. I'm assuming that's once we've selected the construction firm, they'll be on the ground with the construction firm, making sure it's lined up correctly, that that it's going on appropriately in the proper steps, and that they're bird dogging everything that's going on. Is that portion, project coordination?
No, the project coordination for work order number 2 is mainly to coordinate with their staff and all the subcontractors involved, and also with the authority. It's about 12% of the budget. So this is for final design. It's not for construction phase services.
Okay, so, but I mean, are we paying for what they estimate this is all going to cost, or are we paying for what it's actually going to cost?
Well, this is an estimate.
Okay, so is this a not to exceed contract, or is this we're going to be paying this amount of money no matter what?
It's a not to exceed.
Okay. And we did get a very good presentation last meeting, I think it was, about the alignment, and I thought that was very well explained. And I'm very pleased that they're going downward of the dam structure. I think that's very wise.
Commissioner Bennett.
Just a question about, I know we're not construction phase services yet, but what kind of trends are you seeing in terms of bidding for construction? Are we seeing because people are so busy? Is it problematic that we're seeing an increase? I've heard that anecdotally from my folks at Manatee County, and just kind of curious what kind of experience you're having in bidding construction work.
Yeah, we've talked to some contractors during preliminary engineering, and it's probably people are getting more busy, economy's starting to recover, but we upped our estimate for construction phase services based on discussions with various contractors.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it is starting to go back up.
Yeah, well, it's an issue. We have to make sure we plan for that, because it's, you can just see it when you drive, all the construction that's going on. So, well, it's a good thing. We know it's stressing kind of the resources, I guess.
Any other questions? Okay, I've been told we should be taking these motions individually, so Chair will entertain the motions one at a time.
I move the recommended action to receive and file the Regional Integrated Loop System Phase 1 Basis of Design Report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Benak, seconded by Commissioner Constance. Any further discussion? All those in favor are on the first motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. The first motion passes 4-0, and we're on motion number 2. Commissioner, if you want to take a stab
I'll move approve and authorize Executive Director to execute work order number 2, Phase 1 Interconnect final design, permitting and bid phase services to King Engineering Associates for an amount not to exceed $1,079,693.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Benak, seconded by Commissioner Langford. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor on the second motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? The chair votes aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you so much. Are you going to handle item number 4? No. No.
It's the Kevin Moore
Kevin.
show.
Oh, yes.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to your fellow board members.
In the lineup. It will be good.
I have the privilege this morning of tag teaming this issue with Mr. Chris Kusler with King Engineering. And at the beginning of the presentation, in honor of the fact that we have a new board member, one of the things Mr. Lehman thought would be good would be if I provided some context on these loop system pipeline projects. And so I'm going to try to do that here before I introduce Mr. Kusler to talk about their basis of design report.
And I just want to add that I know Commissioner Benak for about 25 years, and she always does need context, yes.
Always.
He's going to be part of the loop.
All right, and then also, just as a sort of a preview, as an engineer, oftentimes our days are spent crunching numbers and trying to decide which type of stainless steel is the best kind to use in a particular application. And basis of design reports are often, do we put the pipeline, exactly where does the pipeline go, what size diameter is the pipeline, and that might not be exciting to a lot of people in the audience. But occasionally engineers do get a chance to be involved in some major decisions, and this project that we're going to talk to you about today has had a major change in it, and that's another reason for me to provide some context for you. So Phase 3B, the loop project that you see here in Sarasota County is in the green box, and it's got the black dotted line around. That's Phase 3B. And where does Phase 3B, where does the name come from? About 10 years ago, the Regional Integrated Loop Study was completed for our organization, and it identified, as part of our strategic vision going into the future, the interconnection of major water supply facilities around the region for efficiency, in the case of drought, and just to ensure that we had a good, resilient, and robust water system to serve the communities that we all represent. And so as a naming convention within that study, they named all of the various pipeline segments in Sarasota County going north from the Carlton plant, Phase 3 pipeline segments. And so there was Phase 3A, and then there was Phase 3B, and then 3C and 3D. So today we're talking about specifically 3B, but it's all part of a larger plan that will eventually interconnect the plant-to-plant connections all the way from Manatee County in the north through the Carlton plant, through the Peace River facility, all the way south to Shell Creek to Punta Gorda. And so it's something really this region is quite proud of. And what's driving all this is population. So we look at how population has grown since 1990. And I'm specifically focusing on these two counties because that's the area where this pipeline is going towards. Manatee County and Sarasota County together collectively have grown by 250,000 people since 1990. And over the next several decades, by 2040, it's going to grow by another 200,000 plus people. And so that's what's driving it is growth, it's development, and of course the itinerant need for water supply to serve all of that. And so what I wanted to do was to take some, these are from Google Earth images, and I'm going to flip through a sequence of photographs that goes from 1987 to 97, 2007 to 2017. And what you'll see is the progressive march of development east. In this particular frame, what you see is the only major regional player in water supply on this map right now is Lake Manatee Water Treatment Plant that was built in 1965. I'm also going to bring online in the images as we go forward the other major elements of regional supply that have come online in those years since. So in 1987, you see I-75, still fairly new at that point. And in the area around the Manatee-Sarasota County line, where we're headed towards with these 3B project, You don't have the University Town Center Mall. You don't have Benderson Park. You don't have Town Center Parkway. You don't have Lakewood Ranch Boulevard. That area out there is mostly cow pasture. All right, now I'm going to move forward, and you can see development starting to march towards the east on the other side of the interstate. And the Carlton water plant shows up in this frame. It was constructed in 1992. It's a major strategic water supply element, or a linchpin, if you will, in the water supply for the region. All right, we move forward another 10 years, and you can see development continuing to march to the east. And now we have the water pipeline, the 42-inch steel pipeline from this facility now is running 23 miles and attaching to interconnecting to the Carlton water plant. All right, so that was a major regional water supply initiative. And then here we are today. So today we now have the Phase 3A pipeline that was completed about 5 or 6 years ago. And it gets water from the Carlton plant north up to about the solid waste complex, the landfill there in Sarasota County. So where do the rest of these loop projects come into play? The project that we're here to talk to you about today is in the dashed green lines there. It's the Phase 3B pipeline and the 3B repump facility. And as it was originally envisioned, that repump facility would be located there to push water into Sarasota County system and push water north towards Lake Manatee Water Treatment Plant. But we also have Phase 3D, which you see up there in the dotted yellow line to the north. That's currently under construction. The Schrader Manatee Ranch could not wait for the region to build that pipeline. He's building it himself. He didn't want to build the thoroughfare and then come back later in a few years and tear it up and put a pipeline in it. So he is moving ahead. I say he. They are moving ahead with that pipeline as a 24-inch diameter pipeline. And then, of course, the missing link, if you will, in between there is this green segment. This is Phase 3C. And this would be the pipeline that interconnects those two facilities. And they're shown just in approximate locations on the map. We haven't designed exactly where that one is going to go. I've shown it going up the Florida Power and Light major high-tension transmission line corridor, because that's as likely a route as we will end up with in a few years. So one of the really neat things, I talked about this, a major change in a project that I'm quite proud of. In working with the Sarasota County staff, King Engineering came up with the concept of, if we right-size the pipelines, we don't need a pump station where that 3B facility is. We can actually take that pump station and we can move it north. We can move that repump facility north, where it strategically is almost equally distant between the Carlton plant and the Lake Manatee plant. And there's a certain symmetry about that, but also it allows us to more efficiently provide water to the public, because instead of needing a pump station at Clark Road and a pump station at Fruitville Road, we can get by with just a pump station at Fruitville Road. So we will have saved the public not only the initial capital cost of a second pump station, but then the ongoing operational cost of that facility that go on in perpetuity. So that was the major change I'm talking about. And it's rather unique, because I have a pipeline located down here, and then 7 miles away we have a pump station located up here. And why does that make sense? Let's really look closely inside this red box. And I apologize, these slides, Commissioner, I see you looking in your book. These slides I put together just this week. They didn't make it into your book. But inside this red box, what we have is the area right around the county line where SMR is currently developing a large tract of land. It's the area bounded on the west by the University Town Center Mall, and on the east there's Lorraine Road. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on the water system pipes, just the water pipes, potable water pipes in that area, and I'm going to blow this up.
Now this is going to be 3D in this section?
Yes, you'll see it right there.
Do we get special glasses?
It's actually flashing at you right now. So what the technique in this particular figure is that each of those pipes, the width of the pipe, it corresponds to its diameter. And in a way, that's a little misleading because as a pipe doubles in size, the carrying capacity increases by a square of that. So a pipe twice as large will carry 4 times as much water. So just like in your body, the heart, the largest arteries and veins come out of the heart because that's the pumping center. What I wanted to show you was the concentration of large diameter pipes that either are in the ground or plan to be in the ground in this location, and why we feel, and King feels, that moving this pump station up to the dot that you see there, the yellow dot, really makes a lot of sense. Now, will it be right in that particular location? No, that's a general area, and one of the things Mr. Kusler is going to talk to you about is some work that they did to locate about 10 parcels within about an 8,000-foot radius of that yellow dot. And there are a number of parcels that are available that the county and the authority are intending to try to secure for a future pump station. And so what I'm going to do now is hand the presentation over to...
And
yes.
A corollary to that discussion, because I do know a little bit about flow, is if you're doubling the size of your pipe, then you're going to quadruple your capacity, but you're also you're not going to reduce your resistance by half. You're going to reduce your resistance by a quarter, so your flow is easier. So that means that you can probably get away with, your booster in a different location because your pipes are bigger.
That was one of the key principles behind our ability to move that pump station to the north. So that's a very good point. So at this point, I will hand the podium over to Mr. Kusler to talk about the basis of design report, and hopefully that will help to explain to you why you will not see a pump station physically attached to the pipeline he's going to talk about, but that gives you the background for that. And then I will come back to the podium when he is completed and talk to you about the upcoming work order for final design.
Morning, Commissioners. Chris Kusler with King Engineering. So as Kevin said, I am going to just walk you through the preliminary engineering efforts that we've completed for the project. I'm going to do that in 2 steps. First, we will talk about the pipeline basis of design report and the process we went through there. And then we'll talk about some of the work we did to locate potential parcels for that relocated 3B pump station. So let's first talk about the pipeline. All right, so when we went into this, the most important thing is to initially define what the goals of this pipeline are. What does it have to do, right? So, the goals are real simple for this one. This pipeline needs to provide adequate capacity to provide enough water and pressure to deliver water to Sarasota County at Clark Road, and Sarasota County plans on constructing a 24-inch pipeline from their connection point there west to their pump station number 5 on Proctor Road. So they will build a 24-inch pipe that will fill the ground storage tank there. So we need to have enough pressure at the end of our pipeline to get the amount of water they need over to that tank to fill that tank without repumping along the way. Then the other thing this pipeline needs to do is very similar. It needs to be able to provide an adequate amount of water at the right pressure to that new storage tank up near Fruitville Road so that we can fill that tank. Okay, so to do that, the first thing we had to do was define what are those flows. Okay, so we worked with Sarasota County in detail looking at their 8 water service regions and looked at their current demands in those regions and what they project their future demands to be. And it ends up after the analysis that in the future, on a max day, it's anticipated that around 7 MGD will be delivered through the existing Praymore connection, which is at the end of the existing Phase 3A pipeline. Another 7 MGD would be delivered at Clark Road, heading over to that pump station 5. And then 17 MGD would need to head north to that tank up near Fruitville Road. 7 MGD of that 17 would go to Sarasota County, and then there's a 10 MGD allowance to go north into Manatee County. So we'll see later, but the proposed design capacity of that pump station is 20 MGD, which is the 17, just rounded up. Okay, so we modeled this whole thing in order to figure out what size do these pipes need to be, and we used those demands and looked at all sorts of different scenarios. And in the end, if the Phase 3B pipeline is a 48-inch diameter pipeline, there's enough pressure and flow at the end of it to get the water to Pump Station 5 and up to the new pump station, assuming the Phase 3C pipeline is a 36-inch pipeline. Okay? And when we modeled that, the outcome was, yes, this concept works. We can get the water to both places, so these pipe sizes work. Okay, then the next step was to figure out what is the route for the pipeline. So we met, again, with Sarasota County, all their different departments, including utilities, stormwater because of the major stormwater work at the Donna Bay conveyance system, solid waste staff because we are going to be using their landfill access road, and then their transportation and planning people to look at future land use, to look at proposed roadways. And after going through all this, it resulted in 7 potential routes for this pipeline consisting of 16 potential pipe segments. All right, so this is really confusing because it shows all the segments. It doesn't really show the 7 different routes. But if you can trace out the routes just by starting here at the connection and use every different way you can to get up to Clark Road. And if you look at the table in the upper left-hand side, it tells you which segments to go with, right? So one thing I want to do is point out to you 2 routes right now. So if we start at the Praymore Interconnect and you go straight up Cowpen Slough, up to Clark Road, I'm going to call that one, that ends up being Route B. And then another route is to start at the Praymore Interconnect, get up to this purple line which cuts across the southern end of the major part of the Donna Bay system, over to this yellow line which is the county's landfill access road, and then up to Clark Road, and that's Route C. And you'll see why I'm pointing them out a little bit later. So as part of this route evaluation, we met with significant property owners in the area, including the Hawkins family, LT Ranch, and the Diocese of Venice. Of course, we did a construction cost evaluation, and then we looked at non-economic criteria, including constructability issues, environmental factors, long-term planning, property acquisition requirements. We got public input, and again, we looked at cost. And we scored all the different routes, all the criteria for all the different routes. And then the criteria were given weight factors. I described that last time. You know, all of the criteria are not necessarily as important as others, so long-range planning might not be as important as cost or public input to this evaluation, so that's why they have different weights. So you'll see, after doing that analysis, Route C, which was the one that went up, cut across Donna Bay, and then up the access road, has got the highest score, followed by Route B, which was straight up the slough. And then at the bottom, the thing that jumps out at you is Route C has got an estimated cost of about $1.2 million higher than Route B. So why is Route C the highest scored route? Well, Route B is a lower cost based on the simple fact that it's a shorter distance. Okay, but there's a lot of complications with Route B. One major complication is that there was a landowner who was unwilling to negotiate easements along the route, which could cause major problems with the schedule if you have to get into eminent domain type issues in order to get the property, right? Towards that north end along Cowpen Slough, that's where the major works are done for the Donna Bay conveyance system. So actually to get away from them, the route crosses Cowpen Slough to the west side of the slough and then goes up to Clark Road, which means we've got to build a bypass canal around the slough so we can get across it, right? Now, in the future, when you build Phase 3C, it's got to cross Cowpen Slough again to get to the connection point. Okay, and then the other thing is the west side of Cowpen Slough is in the 100-year floodplain, which could introduce major problems during construction and then later on with maintenance and operation of the pipeline. So you look at Route C, there's some complications, some small amount of forested wetlands, and then there's coordination with solid waste because we're using their access road. But there's no property issues at all because the entire route is within Sarasota County owned property. Okay? We avoid the difficult crossing of Cowpen Slough. There's no floodplain issues associated like there is with Route B. And it puts the end of the pipe closer to where we anticipate the Phase 3C pipe is likely to come down, which is down that Florida Power easement to the east of the connection. That's Phase 3C would be the yellow line, and the orange line up top is a portion of Sarasota County's 24-inch line coming
Mr. Chairman?
to this.
Yes.
Just a simple question.
Sure.
When you're doing your scoring, by the way, I appreciate everything you're saying, and I think your logic is very good, but this is on a scale of 1 to 10?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And we don't just, we work with the authority, and there's a lot of input to do that.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with your numbers, but I just wanted to know what the numerator was, or the denominator. Thank you.
Okay. So because of those complications that I discussed about Route B, even though Route B has a lower cost, the recommended route is Route C, which takes the pipeline up Penn Slough, across the southern end of the larger parts of the Donna Bay system, and then up the county's landfill access road to Clark Road. Okay? So there we are. Now, let's talk about
Can
the
I ask a
location.
question?
Yes, Commissioner Benek.
On the cost, so all those issues that you cited that made it more difficult, were those all factored in as cost? Like
They were factored in
to
cost.
get an easement and to do wetland permitting, to do all of those things? So is that, how did you cost those? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, that's just, engineering cost estimation based on the construction required to do those things. But it doesn't include the complications and impacts to schedule, not being able to get land that you need, and things like that, which is why you go, keep hitting this thing. You go back to the score, and that's how
So
you rank it.
to get an easement, for example, and the crossings and all of that, to get the land and all of that is figured in at some
At some dollar value,
dollar
yes.
value.
Mhm.
But, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that because you don't know your litigation costs for the eminent domain and all that other stuff, it could actually exceed the estimate that you've given us for what the Route B would be.
Right.
And I also think you're looking ahead, and I appreciate the fact that down the road, you're not going to have to cross the slough again, so you're actually factoring in a cost savings to 3D or 3C on the other side of it.
Correct, and I didn't mention that, but in the cost analysis and actually in the scoring analysis, we looked at the impacts to the different routes on not only the future Phase 3C cost, but also Sarasota County's 24-inch pipeline. Okay, because obviously if we came out all the way to the east, Sarasota County has to build that much more pipeline to get there. Okay, so we did look at those things, and it's built into the scores.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the pump station. Initially, we were going to do a basis of design for the pump station if it was determined to be required at the northern end of the Phase 3B pipeline. As Kevin described, as part of the modeling analysis and the work that was done, it's better for the system to put it up near Fruitville and Lorraine Road. So our scope morphed into, instead of doing the full basis of design, evaluating potential properties to be able to build this pump station, because we have to see how far away, well, we know how far away it is, but we have to see what's available so we can find a place for it. So to do that, we had to figure out how big does this land need to be. So we looked at other pump stations, we determined how much property the different components for a pump station would need. So you've got tanks, you've got a pump building, electrical systems, stormwater systems, and things like that, right? And so we developed a conceptual site plan based on those sizes. Since we don't have a property, we can't do a real site plan, so we did conceptual site plans for a rectangular piece of property, a square piece of property, and a triangular piece of property, just to determine, all right, does what we're doing fit in these general shapes, and if so, how much land do we need for the pump station? So then we looked at the potential sites that are available. Now that analysis said we need a minimum of 10 acres to build the pump station. So we looked for vacant land that was a minimum of 10 acres, all within 8,000 feet of the intersection of Fruitville and Lorraine Roads. And this map shows those properties. We then looked at all of these different properties and evaluated them along the lines of zoning, future land use, what type of soils are there any listed species we need to be concerned about, wetland impacts, any proposed transportation improvements. And we created a matrix that listed the pros and cons on all the different issues associated with these properties. Based on that, we had originally, I think, 8 properties, and we narrowed it down to 5 viable properties. And at this point in the final design phase, there's additional work needed to determine which property will the authority acquire and where will the pump station be constructed. So that's as far as we got on the pump station property. Kevin may know more and takes over after me now.
Mr. Chairman, are any of those properties currently for sale, by the way?
No, we do not know.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Good job. And so we think King did a great job completing the task that was before them. It's been about a year since you approved their basis of design report or preliminary design effort, and we're substantially farther along, and we've talked about the ways the project has morphed and changed slightly. And one of the things I neglected to mention, who's paying for this pipeline? Who's paying for this project? This project is being funded by $500,000 of grant money from the Florida legislature. We have our cooperative funding partner, the Water Management District, here today. John Ferguson, my project manager, is here. So Sarasota County and the Water Management District then are splitting the remainder of the cost for this project. So what I have for you today, very similar to Ford, we have work order number 2, and it will include the design, the permitting, and the bid phase services for this project. And then for the freebie pump station, until we actually have a physical piece of land, we cannot do the final design. We don't know what environmental impacts, what the soils are like, what local utilities we may have to work around. And so while we're asking you to approve the final design for the pipeline today, we will be coming back to you at a future board meeting once we have worked with the county to maybe not have secured the parcel of land, but be reasonably sure we know which parcel of land it's going to be. And then we will ask you for the final design effort for the pump station itself. If you authorize this work order today, this is the schedule. I know it's very small, but essentially the major design work on the pipeline would wrap by the end of this year, and we'd be with a gracious amount of time for permitting. We would be bidding in late 2018. And Ford talked to you about the Phase 1 pipeline, and if we just bring up the summary of the schedule, what you can see here is that bidding and award December of 2018. Ford on the Phase 1 project had bidding and award in November. And so we haven't developed a board schedule for board meetings yet for 2018. But chances are that's close enough together, likely they would go to the same board meeting, and we would be asking for you to approve them at the same time. All right, so today I have, again, 2 separate motions for you, and the motion for the final design effort, design, permitting, and bid phase services for the pipeline at $1,090,391. It does include a $50,000 owner's allowance for Mr. Lehman to approve at his discretion should there be something we run into that was unplanned. It also includes, you had asked whether that was an upset limit. It is the ceiling. It is the upset limit. It does include some lump sum elements, but also some time and material elements as well in case we need to use them. And King Engineering has been a good partner with the authority. They usually leave money on their contracts. They don't use every dollar. So I feel fairly confident that cost ceiling is a real cost ceiling for us. And then one final thought I wanted to pass along to you. A year ago, when you approved King Engineering and you voted to award both Phase 1 independently, but they ended up with both projects. And one of the questions the board asked them at the time was, well, will we realize an efficiency because you're doing both projects? And one of the questions we dug down into, at least for these 2 work orders, King has apprised us that because we can coordinate our project meetings, Ford and I can have project update meetings on the same day where we have the efficiency of using the same people. They feel like the cost savings is about 5% per project. So we're saving about $100,000 in engineering costs because I'm not saying that you want to pick the same firm for both jobs, but just as it turns out, we're realizing about $100,000 savings in engineering costs today because the same firm is doing both of these projects.
All right, I have a question, but I'll go last. Commissioner Benak?
When you said the project's funded by the state and Swiftmud grants and Sarasota project savings, I don't know what that means. What's Sarasota project savings?
Mr. Lehman?
Yeah, if I could explain. A few years back, when we completed the big projects, we actually had some money left in the pot.
Okay.
And so that was set into a fund called Project Savings on behalf of the members that participated. Currently, Sarasota has over $2 million in cost savings set aside. Northport has a couple $1 million set aside also. That money is made available, and this goes back to our bond attorneys and everything, that rather than refund it, we had to set it aside. That money is available for projects that Sarasota would say, authority, please transfer that money over to this project, and the same with Northport if they were to have a future project, or to be used for bond refunding in 2020.
And also, and you probably know this way better than I do, I understand Lorraine Road this extension is under construction right now. So are you coordinating with the engineers that are designing and building the Lorraine Road extension?
Yes, we are. We've actually reviewed their plans and commented on the master meter capability that we need to make this regional line work as a regional line. I don't know, Mr. Coates may know more than that, but I'll share that with you.
You know, if I may, to leap on those two questions. First of all, at least my vote today, I think everyone's vote today, mine will be conditioned upon our full board allowing the movement of this project savings account money. So that we're trying to get on the board schedule for this Tuesday coming. It was on for later, the end of the month. So that needs to occur. So I'd like the motion to at least indicate that piece of it. Second thing is, when I saw that great presentation from both of you, I teased you because I knew yours was going to be a very dynamic presentation. That 8,000 foot, that's ground zero in Sarasota County as the development moves east of I-75. So the sooner the better you wrestle somebody to the ground about buying a piece of land, I would think the better. And teasing Commissioner Benak about context, I finally got in my own mind 3A, 3B, 3C, and 3D. And I guess what you're saying is that right now the pump station at the end of 3B won't get designed because it may be a pump station at the end of 3C. And I assume you're going to change the name so that I'm not totally confused in the future. Great. Commissioner Constance.
Okay, so let's do this in order then. Mr. Chairman, I move to receive and file draft Regional Integrated Loop System Phase 3B Interconnect Basis of Design Report.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Constance, second by Commissioner Langford. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. First motion on item number 4. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That motion moves forward 4-0 in approval.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve and authorize Executive Director to execute work order number 2, Phase 3B Interconnect Final Design, Permitting, and Bid Phase Services to King Engineering for amount not to exceed $1,090,391, pending acceptance or contingent upon acceptance and movement of the funds by the Sarasota County Commission to make those funds available.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Constance, second by Commissioner Langford. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by...
Hang on, I'm sorry. Before you take the vote, is there a way that, as part of the motion, and I hope my second will allow it, that I agree about the property, and if there's a way that we can accelerate that phase of the project to identify the most likely piece and try to accelerate, because this is going to happen. So let's get that property wrangled. So as soon as you, King, can figure out and agree with the authority that this is and start negotiating, bring that back to us a lot faster than you would normally do in the process, because I agree. If it's ground zero, and that was in my thought as soon as we were looking at the map, we've got to get that addressed. So I'd like that to be part of the motion, that portion outside of engineering gets accelerated.
And the second agrees?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That second motion on item number 4 passes 4-0. Thank you both. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Item number 5, strategic plan implementation process.
No, you're going to, no, very good. Thank you, Kevin. John Shearer with Shearer Consulting. Just want to update you on the schedule for the process to implement the strategic plan. At the last board meeting in December, we had a workshop. We went through the plan in great detail. We talked about all the issues. The board pretty much accepted the recommendations that came through in that plan. Originally, we were on schedule to adopt that plan today. The board requested that we delay that a little bit and do that same presentation to each of the members, boards of county commissioners, if they so desired, to give them a chance to weigh in and understand the long-term strategic plan and vision of the authority, which is what we're going to do. Those meetings are being scheduled now, and if everything goes according to schedule, we'll be back at the April board meeting, having received the feedback from the different boards of county commissioners, and we can go forward with that. There was one little issue that the board brought up. It was some wordsmithing to the vision statement that we can discuss today. We can adopt it, or we can discuss it further. There's three statements at the top. The one at the top of that slide is the current existing vision statement that's in the strategic plan. Through the discussion of the board, we thought, based on the concern, that we modify it a little bit, and so we're giving you 2 other future options to consider to modify that original statement. I think the board felt like we need to have a statement in that vision statement that we've already created it and that we're going to continue to expand it. So these are just 2 attempts to try to capture kind of the sense of the board from the last meeting to see what direction you would like to go.
Well, we had an extensive conversation,
right.
Commissioner Constance.
And I think I may have recommended option 2, but I think option 1 may be fine too, because if you think about it, expanding is also creating, and maybe it was create and maintain, so maybe we should be create, maintain, and expand. And I think then you've got it all covered.
Yeah. So.
But we are growing, we are expanding, and that's part of our mission.
Do we need a motion, or can we just do that one by consensus?
I think I'd prefer a motion, so
Okay,
it's
so moved.
more direct.
For option number 1.
For number 1,
Yes,
I'll
sir.
second that. Yep.
Motion by Commissioner Constance, second by Commissioner Langford. Any additional conversation? All those in favor of the motion, we're going with option number 1. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. You now have your new language.
Okay, so we'll be back in April, absent some other issue that might come up for a final adoption of the strategic plan with subsequent input, if necessary, from the different boards.
And you're scheduled for everybody?
Pat, we're 3 out of the 4 members. Yep. I think
Yep.
we're working on the 4th now.
Okay.
We're looking at a later March timeframe, because I've tried to piggyback them.
Sure.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on item number 6, Peace River Facility Water Use Permit Modification Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. Mike Coates of your staff. This particular item is about our water use permit that's issued by the Southwest Florida Water Management District, and that permit allows us to withdraw water from the Peace River for use at this facility and to meet your needs. This is really a discussion of planning more than anything else. I'm going to talk about how we operate our withdrawals and storage facilities, how the water use permit ties into all that, but how a change in that permit is going to facilitate new supply development out here to meet future needs. So we'll, as Richard Anderson indicated before, we're going to go into some projections of future need here too. Florida is, as you know, it's a land of extremes, Southwest Florida especially. We get too much water in the summertime a lot of times. We get too little water in the wintertime and the springtime. We seem to have a flood or a drought all the time, every year in Florida at some location. But what that does is it provides an opportunity to develop supplies like this Peace River facility. It's kind of a load leveling issue for us. We can take water during the high flow times, store it off stream, and use it during the low flow times. And this model can be used elsewhere in Florida. Everywhere in South Florida gets these kind of conditions. And it is trying to be used elsewhere in Florida. A lot of people are looking at that. So the annual cycle is shown here. We get an annual 52 inches of rain. Most of it, of course, during June, July, and August. And in response to that, of course, depressional storage out on the watershed fills, the rivers rise. This is the Peace River at Arcadia, and you see that usually peaks around September. A lot of water in the system at that point, a lot of water that's available to be harvested and stored off stream. And that's exactly what we do here. And why is it important that we look at those kind of supplies, that we look at these? It's an alternative supply. It's partly because of where we are here. We are in the Southern Water Use Caution Area. This is an 8-county area in the Southwest Florida Water Management District where groundwater is overproduced from the Floridan aquifer. And the most impacted area is outlined here. We see saline water intrusion along the coast. You see low lake levels in the Highlands Ridge area. We've seen lower flows in the upper Peace River, all associated with this groundwater pumping out here. And so part of the rationale for going to these alternative sources like the Peace River, the surface water supply, and also like the Manatee River or the Manatee Dam, another surface water supply, is to take the load off of the groundwater system. So it's important that we're able to do that. Well, let's look at the Peace River watershed. This is the resource that we depend on. It's a large watershed in Florida terms, 2,350 square miles. We're located here. About 75% of the watershed is upstream of us, and that's good for us because it gets a lot more water down to where we are. Now, we wouldn't want to be located much further down because then you get into water quality issues associated with salt water moving up from Charlotte Harbor, and we do occasionally see that. Just last week, we had a big storm system blow through here, blew a lot of wind, and in fact, blew salt water all the way up to our intake. Even though there was water that could be harvested in terms of the flow, we had salt water all the way up to the intake. And so we're located in a very good location for a water supply facility. Now, of course, the Peace River supports Charlotte Harbor. It supports the Charlotte Harbor estuary. And that's one of the major factors that affects our ability to withdraw water from this system, is to make sure that we're not taking water that the estuary needs. And I'll talk a little bit about why we're not taking water the estuary needs in just a minute. This is our current water use permit withdrawal schedule. And we have a schedule of withdrawals that's based on the minimum flows and levels that the Water Management District has established for the lower Peace River. And that preserves the flow that's necessary to support the estuary. And it also provides us with the ability to harvest water based on these seasonal blocks, the time of year when we can harvest water. For example, in the summertime, if flows are pretty high, and they usually are, we could take up to 28% of that flow. Well, Usually, we can't even come close to that. If the river's flowing 1 billion gallons a day, we can't pump 280 million gallons a day. We can only pump 120 million gallons a day, but it does provide a lot of available resource for us to use as long as we've got storage and the ability to take that water off the river quickly when it's available. So this looks fairly complicated. It is kind of complicated, but the point of it is that once flow upstream of our intake reaches a certain point, we're able to take a certain percentage of that flow, harvest it, put it off stream, and meet your demand with it. And what we're talking about in our water use permit modification is an enhancement of that. There is a lot of water available, and we need to enhance that. Our diversion schedule is based, again, on the 2010 minimum flows and levels the Water Management District established. And it, like I said, ties diversions to upstream conditions. And what it does is it preserves the natural flow characteristics of this system. And you can see that our withdrawals, I'll go over here, our withdrawals are actually the thickness of that blue line in here. And all of the water that's shown in green on here flows downstream to support the estuary. So we harvest, on average, since the new reservoir came online, we harvest on average about 4% of the total flow in the system. And in the last 7 years, that's ranged from 2.5% in 2016 when the flows were really high to about 8% in 2011 when the flows were generally pretty low. And this is 2011.
That's a great slide, Mr. Chairman. That's a great slide. That's just the blue shadow on the edge of the green.
Right.
And I noticed that it only turns blue once you hit the peak. The water's flowing. You're not pumping anything on the left side. You're pumping once we've got a huge flow. You're pumping on the downslope until you hit that minimum where you don't want to touch it anymore.
Right. And there are a lot of times when you can see on here we aren't taking any water. Flows are too low or the quality is not good. That's one of the advantages of off-stream reservoirs is you don't have to take what's coming down the river. You can wait for something better if you want and if you have the ability to do that. So in terms of an operational scheme at this facility, simplistically, we have a wet season operation that fills storage, pumps water off the river, fills our raw water storage, feeds our water treatment facility, which of course supplies our customers and recharges ASR. So wet season operation, filling storage. Dry season operation, usually no water available or very little water available from the river to harvest, and we rely entirely on our storage. Now, we have gone over 200 days in the past without taking any water off of the river. Not since we put the big reservoir online, but in the past, back in 2000, 2001 drought, 2006, 2007 droughts, protracted periods of time when no water was available from the river. And that's what makes this storage so important. That's what levels the load for this kind of a supply. And you can see that generally, and this is the last 7 years since we put the new reservoir online. Our operational scenario has changed entirely from what it used to be. And it shows about what we harvest from the river during any particular month for those 7 years. And you can see that most of the water harvested and filled storage during the summertime, relatively little going through the winter. So the general characteristic there.
That's a 7-year compilation?
This is a 7-year compilation. It's since we got the new reservoir online. I wanted to show a blow-up of this 2011 slide just because it's important to note what we're actually taking from the river. And it is a fairly small percentage. Even though we're entitled to take a larger percentage, this is a fairly small percentage of the flow. And it's affected by the demand. Honestly, these off-stream reservoirs are really just a wide spot in the pipe. If we got a demand of 26 million gallons a day, that's about all you can take off of the river. I mean, there's nowhere else to put it. And so you average 26 million gallons a day. And that's what happened in 2011. We had a demand of, I think it was about 24 million gallons a day. The rest of it went into ASR storage and is currently stored in ASR. So that's what we see. And as demand goes up, we would see that line thicken. So what are we proposing to change out here in our water use permit? These are the things we're looking to change. We're looking to renew the water use permit for 30 years. Currently, the permit extends out to 2037. And this new permit, we would look to extend out to 2048. So we've still got a good amount of time on the permit that we have now, but I'll show you in just a minute why we think it's a good idea to go ahead and extend the permit at this point while we have the opportunity. But this does support long-term planning, and it does meet our long-term demands. We're looking to increase the maximum allowable withdrawal from the Peace River. Right now, we're at 120 million gallons a day for the maximum allowable withdrawal. If we put new facilities out here, we will need to fill those just as quickly as we fill the current ones, which means we need to increase that maximum daily capacity. And then we're also looking to try and remove the average annual delivery quantity from the face of our water use permit. That delivery quantity really has nothing to do with the resource issues on this permit. What it does is it constrains the amount of water that we can deliver to you. And in the SWCA, this being an alternative supply that helps the groundwater system recover, there shouldn't be that constraint. There isn't any reason to constrain a facility like this where a lot of water is available that could help the region. And so we believe that's a help for the region, and it improves our operational flexibility as well.
Can you define SWCA?
The Southern Water Use Caution Area. It's that 8-county area that I showed earlier where groundwater resources are stressed. So let's talk about what we actually need. Richard showed you this part of the line here. He showed you the demand for the last 7 years in a bar chart, and says our demand has grown about 1.5% a year. He showed you the existing capacity that we have out in the system. It's about 105 million gallons a day. And this growth rate, as indicated, about 1.5% per year. Now,
I'm sorry, is that finishing capacity? When you refer to capacity, what do you mean? Is it pipeline capacity?
This existing average day capacity is the average day capacity of all the production facilities in the region, all of our customer production facilities. So it's Carlton.
But is it the ability to finish the maximum amount of water? And
well, it's the average day for each of those. It's the long-term average day that they would be able to produce.
But again, I'm trying to understand what is the rate limiting part of that capacity word?
The rate limiting part of the capacity word is usually the permitted capacity of those facilities.
Okay.
Permit by the DEP.
So really then that's called the imaginary capacity limit. What is the real capacity limit? That is the governmentally limited capacity. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you don't have this answer maybe. I'm sure you don't.
Well,
but you're going to have to dig to find out, because I'd really like to know. It's probably 150, 200. I mean, we have facilities in the region that can finish more water. It's the government that's not allowing, that has set a bar, and we have to ask permission to raise the bar, essentially.
And
is that correct?
And yes, and I'll give you an example on the Peace River facility. We're limited by our water use permit to 32.8 million gallons a day being sent down to our customers. Our facility can produce 51 million gallons a day. All right? But if we were to produce 51 million gallons a day all the time at this facility, it would be at a far lower reliability than that 34.8 million gallons a day. So we use that lower number for planning purposes because really that's the long-term number that we can count on from these facilities.
Is it because if you push it to the maximum, you're stressing what you have and you're running the water through so quickly that you're not going to have the quality control that you have at 34 million gallons a day, or what's the?
In part, it's that. Here, the storage would not, the storage and the ability to withdraw water off of the river won't support high reliability at 51 million gallons a day. We'd run out of water too often at 51 million gallons a day.
Because we're permit limited to 120 million gallons a day to draw off the river.
Yes.
Part of it.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
No, Commissioner Benak, and then I have something.
I just want to ask, so the 105 million gallons per day is existing capacity, and you said for who again?
That's for our customers, all of our customers. Manatee, Sarasota,
So everybody.
Charlotte, it's everybody.
Counties, the cities, everybody.
Yeah. No, it doesn't include city of Sarasota, it doesn't include city of Bradenton, but our customers.
Now, I have something for you. Are you getting close to the last slide? I don't want to preempt it with your recommended motion. Is that going to, do you have more to go before
I do have a few more to go.
Yeah,
If you'd like me to.
No, go right ahead, and
Okay.
then we'll, because I want to speak to what
I get
this
accused of
is all
droning
about.
on and on by Pat pretty often.
Yes, yes.
No, this is good.
No, this is perfect.
Okay.
Have the flashing lights.
Yeah. All right, so where are the demands likely to go? We know they're increasing by about 1.5% per year. Our master plan, which was done in 2015, showed a 1.5% or 1.9% annual growth rate. And that was based on our customer projections. And so if we tack that onto the end of this actual, and we grow demand at 1.9% a year out to the end of what we would consider a 30-year permit term, we've got about 125 million gallon a day demand. That's 58 million gallons a day more than the demand today. And you can see where this crosses the existing capacity line in about 2036. Now, you would say, well, that's when we need new capacity. No, that's not when we need new capacity. You've got to have excess capacity in the system. You've got to maintain that excess capacity for emergencies and for large new users, and because it takes 7 years to put a new supply online. And so we have today, as Mr. Anderson indicated, about 36 million gallons a day in reserve capacity. That's about 35% reserve capacity between demand and the existing average daily capacity of these facilities. What our master plan indicated was that we should be around 18%, 35% too high. We're carrying a lot of dead capital, more or less, that way. But 18%, good number, and 18% crosses that existing capacity line in about 2030. And what that means, that means is that between 2030 and 2048, when we're proposing the new permit to expire, we would need to put on 43 million gallons a day in new supply capacity out there to meet those needs. Now, Richard said our demand was increasing the last 7 years at 1.5%. So here's the line at 1.5%. 1.5% demand, here's the 18% capacity increase. We still have to put on 30 million gallons a day in new supply capacity. So it's still a big bunch of water that needs to be developed out here in the next 30 years.
Commissioner Constance.
Thank you. I guess I have a question, because what you said a few minutes ago to Commissioner Benak did make sense to me. As if I'm reading Mr. Anderson's reports correctly, the 105 million gallons a day is everybody, cities and counties. You said it didn't include cities.
It's not everybody.
City of Sarasota and City of Bradenton, you said it didn't include.
It doesn't include Sarasota, doesn't include, I don't think.
No, it includes our 4 county members in the city of Northport, because
People that buy water from us.
Okay.
Just customers and
Didn't,
members.
didn't we talk a while back about also having, as part of this, knowing the total regional capacity, not just what the authority is hooked into, but everybody? So where is that line? What is the total regional capacity? We may not be hooked into City of Sarasota or City of Punta Gorda yet, but eventually, I mean, that's got to be part of our portfolio. So I thought we talked about this a really long time ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, and I asked for you to put that in here, and that's what I thought the almost 70 million gallons a day of capacity for county and city facilities was talking about. And now you're telling me that that's not including City of Sarasota? Okay.
You can't include somebody that we don't serve.
Well, I understand that, but I still would like to know what's regionally available, because if we're on track for total integration of all sources, you got to know what's out there, because eventually we are going to be sticking a straw in everybody's pool. And having that, because when we're hooked into the City of Sarasota, they're going to be occasionally asking for water, or they may need water in the future. We're going to have to, involve them in this. So I thought that was part of our discussion. I'm actually kind of shocked. So could I just, as an aside, ask you for the next meeting to have that? I want to know all water sources in the 4-county region, so that we have a good idea of what's out there. Yeah, we may not control it, we may not be hooked into it, but I want to know what the total capacity is, what's being utilized, and what the total capacity is for the entire 4-county water authority region. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, we can provide that.
Okay.
And let me clarify that the demand growth and demands on here are just for our customers. They don't include Sarasota. They don't include Bradenton. They don't include
But if we're being good stewards, then we should have the entire 30,000-foot view of what's going on, because somebody at some point is going to be knocking on our door, and we better be ready. Okay? That's our mission, and that's the part that we have to make sure we're ready for.
Okay. So what we've got is it appears that we need to put between 30 and 42 million gallons a day of new supply online, based on the demand projections we have today. We don't have everyone's demand projections starting in 2018. This is some data that is, a year or so old. But it gives you a kind of an order of magnitude and a scale for what we're looking at. And when we did the master plan, we identified 119 million gallons a day in new supply options out there. They included seawater, desal, lots of extra surface water supply sources. But the cream of the crop were these. They were the most favorable looking supplies that we have, and they total 40 to 42 million gallons a day. So that looks like it's going to meet our needs for the next 30 years. But what I want to point out is that half of those supplies are identified at the Peace River facility. So we've got another 15 million gallon a day surface water treatment plant expansion, 5 MGD brackish RO. We're testing right now partially treated ASR. So we've got a lot of projects at the Peace River facility that are going to depend on being able to get more water off the river. And first one of those is shown here. This is a 15 million gallon a day surface water facility. It includes an additional reservoir. There's the Orange Hammock property where potentially that mitigation for this new reservoir, which could be located anywhere on RV Griffin. but it depends on being able to take more water off the river. Partially treated ASR. If this works out, we can recharge ASR faster, we can get a better recovery, we get better economics on it, and it would be improved by additional water off the river, additional capacity. In addition to that, we're looking at brackish groundwater out here. And that well field may not be located at that exact location, but, somewhere out here. That, permitting a groundwater source in the SWACA is difficult. If we're able to recharge the aquifer with additional water from the river during part of the year, it simplifies that process extremely. So it makes it more viable, makes it more likely that we will be permitted for something like that. So all in all, we've got a lot of projects out here in the future that would benefit from the ability to take more water off the river, and that's exactly why we're coming to you today to suggest that we go in and permit those suppliers, permit that additional water off of the river while we can. We don't know what politics are going to be a couple of years from now. We don't know if somebody else is going to come in upstream of us a couple of years from now. Now's the time that we think is the right time to do this. And so our recommended action is that we be allowed to move forward with an application for modification or renewal of that permit. And we look at 30 years and up to 200 million gallons a day maximum withdrawal, the other things that I talked about to support that future need of the facility.
Can I ask you, I'm sorry, Commissioner, go ahead, then I have something.
The minimum flow on the Peace River, where does this approach the minimum flow that's been established?
Our withdrawal schedule as it stands today provides quite a bit less water than the MFL would provide. The MFL says there's well over 100 million gallons a day to be had from this system. We're not requesting anywhere near that.
Okay,
so
we're
we're more conservative.
Less than 75% of the MFL, less than 50%?
258 million gallons a day is the maximum.
Can I ask you to put the previous slide back up? First of all, just a few minutes of comment. Our staff does a wonderful job, and this board has been very proactive, and this is setting us up for the next 20, 30 years. Anyone who was at the water forum, and Commissioner Constance, you and Mr. Wayman just did a wonderful job there. It was a point of pride because we are doing the very best job anywhere in the state. And then when you compare to what we do to the rest of the country, it's dramatic how well we're doing. We have new commissioners, 3 new commissioners in Northport, so I want to point out for the record again, which is why I asked for this slide to be put up. There's a lot of hopes about Orange Hammock. We are not planning a 3rd reservoir when it comes to be on Orange Hammock, nor are we planning on taking any of the possible potable surface water that crosses Orange Hammock into the canal, which goes to the Northport's water treatment plant. So I want to put that into the record again. This is a great graphic. I'd love a copy of this because I need demonstrable proof with folks that the 3rd reservoir does fit in addition to all the other things that we want to do. I'm sorry to have interrupted you. I think we're on that motion now. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm glad this is a really good item. I want to ask some questions about the current permit that was issued in August of 2015.
Yeah.
So total quantities authorized are 34.855 gallons per day annual average. Peak month 41.852 gallons per day for the peak month. So that's way below 100. The crop protection maximum. Explain that term to me.
The crop protection maximum on there is that 120?
120, yeah, that's the 120.
120, that is the maximum amount of water that we can take from the river. Those other quantities on there are the ones that I suggested that we take off.
Right.
Those are finished water delivery quantities.
Which has
that are
nothing to do with.
Has nothing to do with a resource out here. That limits our flexibility.
So I absolutely agree with that part of this. And we had a very good meeting at pre-agenda, and I feel like we should be more aggressive than what you're asking for. I think what you're asking for is more than reasonable. But rather than ask for a 30-year permit starting from now, which merely extends us for 10 years beyond our current permit, I want to ask for a 30-year extension on our current permit. And I would even go as far as to say, let's talk about the 250 million gallons a day, and let's just get there. Because what I don't want to have happen is somebody else upriver to figure out some other facility that they're going to put in and drain our potential capacity ahead of time, because we're growing. And I have a little bit of an issue with, I'm looking here, and I think the population served 338,989 people. It's got to be more than that. And when you start linking in all the pieces of the straw, all the pipelines leading up to Manatee, obviously Manatee has Lake Manatee and they've got their supply, but that becomes an interconnected portion, and that increases the population to 1 million. So, it's no longer 97 gallons per day per person. It winds up being a lot lower with the current permit, meaning that we can go a lot higher and still have reasonable numbers. And I'd like to ask our attorney, Mr. Manson, what are our options? Is that not the case where we can go out 50 years? And
Well, to go for the maximum, what I would suggest is that we word it until we go for the maximum duration permit we can have under the law and the rules. And that we go in with the district with a 50-year permit. It has never been done before at the district, but there's always a first time for everything.
Who got the first 30-year permit?
That would be us. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we've been very good stewards. I think we've got an excellent track record, and we were the trendsetters before. Let's do it again. So if you can help me craft that motion, Mr. Manson, that's
actually the way I checked after we spoke,
Yes,
and
sir.
the way the motion reads, it doesn't reference a quantity. So the motion, the way it's written down for staff, allows us to go forward
So
to
the maximum
maximize the
permitted
duration.
under the law for the maximum amount of time. That would be
Right.
my motion.
Yes.
We'll take that as a motion.
That's a motion.
Is there a second? Motion by Commissioner Constance, second by Commissioner Langford.
Just a question on the supply side. When the supply plan was put together, did it anticipate all of the things that you've shown
Yes.
as far as supply?
Yep. Yes, in fact, these supplies, the Brackish RO project and the additional surface water supply, were both in our master plan, and they were carried into the water management district's water supply plan for the southern region too. So they're in there.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify the motion, I also want to make clear, I agree, we're removing the annual average and the peak month numbers from the total quantities authorized under the permit. So we'll just be asking for the crop protection maximum. And I understand it's 258,000 gallons a day, but 250 is fine, whatever the engineering staff thinks is appropriate to move forward. But let's ask for the maximum, and then we'll get their feedback, and then we can go from there.
So tell me, can somebody please read the motion, because I'm not exactly sure I know exactly what the language is.
Okay, it's the motion, the recommended action, the motion that was up on the board.
And add the language.
Well, it's the intent of the motion, as put into the record by Commissioner Constance, that it does not reflect any minimum amounts, that it is the maximum allowed that the permit that we can get. So the timeline, the amount, all is the maximum that we can manage to get the people that are getting the permits for us to get.
I say that because I don't have any problem, I don't think, with the motion, the way it's written. If it's being changed, there may be implications that I haven't really thought about or discussed with anyone, so I'm hesitant to do that. I applaud your aggressiveness in wanting to go for it and get the maximum possible, but I'm not sure exactly what that means without thinking about it a little bit. So I'm okay with the motion as it is proposed. If I understood correctly, that does not deter you from what your goal was in this motion.
No, it does not.
It's above and beyond. A point of information, I think this still winds up coming back to us, doesn't it? This is just the ask.
We can bring this back
Yeah, I mean,
in
I
April.
don't want you to be
or June.
uncomfortable.
It'll take a while to put this application together.
Okay. Conceptually, I don't have a problem with it, and the way it's worded in the motion.
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions here at this, well, we're in a motion. Let me make a discussion then. First of all, our member counties in the city of Northport are growing dramatically in many instances. I know from my county, 404,000 people. If you simply just take out the city of Longboat Key, the city of Sarasota, and the city of Venice, that leaves 85,000 less. Still 320,000 people. So I think sometimes the numbers that we look at are low. Those are the numbers. 56,000 for Sarasota, 7,200 for Longboat Key, 21,000 for the city of Venice. Northport has a bit of its own supply, but it's still part of us here. I don't want us ever to be behind the 8 ball, and I'm going to be very careful and deliberate in what I say here. I walk around talking about an average of 12 to 12.5 billion gallons in our 2 reservoirs and the ASR wells. But we did have a dry month, and that swung when I questioned people before. That was an 850 to 900 million gallon swing in our storage. Absolutely nothing to be concerned about. We are in great shape. That's the deliberate part of this message. But we're going to have unforeseen circumstances. Our communities are growing. It takes time. I think I heard a number that if we started tomorrow, it's going to take 7 years to get all the facilities online. This is critical to do this now at this sizing. I'm also after having asked questions, that once we get this permit, it's a lot, I would make it akin to the old DRIs with trip vesting. We are vested, that's ours. Anybody who comes in and successfully gets a permit after us is after us. Okay. Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner.
And again, to reiterate, I agree with everything you're saying, and that's the whole point, is if we ask for 180 or 200, and the maximum that can be pulled is 250, and somebody else comes in and grabs the next segment of capacity, we then have to get permitted above and beyond that. And we know we're here to stay, and we know we're going to be growing. There's no doubt about it for the future. It's never going to get smaller. Demand's never going to go down. So let's just go ahead and get it done.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Based on what you said. So in the SWCA recovery strategy, was there ever any modifications to existing permits as part of the SWCA recovery strategy? I just want to make sure. It's been a while since I've been in this water game, but SWCA recovery strategy.
Commissioner, I'm getting a signal into your microphone.
Oh, sorry. SWCA recovery strategy, whether or not there was changes to existing permits, or was everybody vested? I want to clarify.
I dealt with that probably more than Mike did at the time. I was on renewal on the agricultural permits that you were reduced to the efficiency levels for irrigation. So the SWCA recovery plan did include unused quantities being dropped off, and then also increases in irrigation efficiency, which reduced the agricultural permits when they came in. Obviously, public supply was required to increase their per capita usage, but because people increased, the total volume of water went up.
Well, that's why because I heard what was said about, vested, can't take it away, but I remember the SWCA recovery being kind of it was a long-term plan, and I'm not exactly sure how it even has the success of it, but I just wanted to make sure, since we're, banking on it, that things can change, and that's why I brought it up.
Okay, any other discussion on this motion? We're on item number 6. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That moves forward unanimously, 4 to 0. We are on item number 7, budget process for fiscal year 2018.
Sorry, I got a meeting at 1 back in Manatee County.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, or maybe good afternoon, depending on what my watch is saying. I'll try to make this short and brief, but informative. It's budget time once again. Of course, you've all talked about the strategic plan implementation, our mission, our vision, and certainly our accomplishments. I want to make sure that we maintain that well into the future and through the budget process. Looking briefly at the schedule that you'll be seeing so you can, for all your expectations of the budget. Certainly we're starting today. We'll be developing the draft budget, getting with your staff members of your utilities, also with your administrators, and bringing back the tentative budget proposed in April. That tentative budget then will be vetted throughout the summer months and with a public hearing in October. Looking historically as to how our budget's gone, you can see that looking at the operationally, it's been very consistent. There's a little bit of an up in 2014. That was really due to the 1991 rebuild costs that were incorporated into the budget at that time. But other than that, the operations has been very consistent, even though you've heard over and over that the water demands have been increasing. You can see that the CIP, of course, is project of projects that we initiate throughout different years. The historical water delivery, there once again, you can see it going up, very consistent. You've heard over and over, 1.5% to 2% a year pretty much. Budgetarily, we take in the January projections that each of you provide, and you can see that they're a little bit higher than the actuality, but that's exactly what utility planning should be, that you plan for the worst case so that you have plenty of water planned and budgeted. And see how that conforms with our contractual quantity amounts, 34.7. So we haven't reached that by any means, but of course, as you've seen in other presentations that we'll be approaching in the future. Certainly we have many, many documents. These documents pretty much are available on our website. They're the same documents that you all go with, the federal regulations, Florida statutes, own governing documents. Certainly our bond documents lay out financially and management-wise and operation-wise conditions that we must abide with in order to maintain our credit ratings, which I'm glad to say are all now in the AA rating. Certainly that's a credit to all the staff of the authority and financial operations, management, and engineering. Our principles, certainly we have to abide by the 34.7 that we have contracted out. We must be able to supply that at any given notice. We have the demand projections that come in from each of the member counties and Northport projected for the upcoming budget year. We certainly plan for the long-term water demands too, so there are no bumps or hiccups into the future. We also invest in to maintain the infrastructure. You have millions and millions of dollars of investment. It's certainly incumbent upon us to make sure we maintain that, to extend the useful life of those facilities to the future. Financial stability and bond rating, that goes without saying. Maintain reasonable water rates. Don't say cheap water rates anymore, but reasonable. And certainly when you look at the water rates compared to other utilities, say the electric, and I'll get to P&L in a minute, and certainly even your cell phone bills, certainly water is still one of the most reasonable charged utilities going. Not only looking at next year's upcoming water rates, but also how do we look in the 2 to 5 year range of what the water rates may be doing. We don't want to go up and down and have big bumps. We want to make sure that we maintain some kind of level of financial surety. And certainly looking at the long-term CIPs and how we're going to pay for that. How are we structured? We are, of course, an enterprise fund, just like your utilities. That we have the administrative office that does administrative functions. Certainly most of the majority of the cost and employment down here at the facilities with the O&M, technical service, construction services. Water allocations, contractually we have 34.7 MGD allocated by contract, and you can see how those are broken up. It's pretty much Sarasota, Charlotte County, of course, are pretty much equal partners anymore in their allocations. Northport with approximately a little less than 3 MGD, and Desoto with a small portion too. How are those projected to be delivered? This is this year's current projections. As I said, once we get next year's projections, we'll update it. But you can see there again, pretty much follows along with the allocations. So looking at preparing for the upcoming budget, one of the things are there any expectations operating? I think you all will experience it too. FP&L has already given us the notice. The PSC approved a 10% increase to the water authority upcoming for the next year. Also that they've already approved 2% increases for the 2 years after that. How will that impact us? That's what staff will be evaluating to incorporate into the budget. They've also already applied for another rate increase, so there may be something else looming. But that is a known. As we've heard about construction costs, other costs may be going up, but we'll be evaluating that.
Okay.
Staff?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. Hey, Pat, I'm just thinking about this as you're saying it. So I would assume 95% of our FPL bill is right here.
Yes.
98%, whatever it is. Any thoughts about, at this point in 2017, looking at a solar facility to put our own panels on the ground here?
We actually had a study done years back that I can dust off, and we're not only looking at that, but also wind and other opportunities of alternative cost savings.
But I mean, the efficiency of the cost of the panels has gone down precipitously, and they're cropping up everywhere. Babcock's, I mean, it's mostly FPL driven, but they see an efficiency to it. So, I can tell you right now, Cheney Brothers is putting in a solar facility right next to their facility in Charlotte County because they don't want to pay those rates, and they feel that they can acquire that land, put the panels on the ground, and do quite well. So I think it's time for us to start looking into that ourselves, especially since they've decided to bump up the rates again.
We used to have a real good deal with them because we would go off grid and go on our own power when they called, but all that stuff's going out the window with them now.
And Pat, I got to tell you, when Ann brings me the checks to sign, we've talked about this. I think our average FP&L bill per month is somewhere in the $115,000 to $120,000 a month range. So it's going to go up. Wow.
So absolutely, if there's cost savings, that's a good point. Looking at how our expenditures pretty well shake out, and it's been very consistent over the years. You see, of course, O&M costs 40% of the typical cost. The debt service is the next portion. Projects is a significant portion, 21%. That includes both CIP and R&R projects. Other costs that are in there are contribution to R&R, contingency, and our debt service coverage that we use to maintain our bond systems. The county payments for the payments to Charlotte County for the 91 acquisition that they carry the actual bonds on that, and also the payment to Desoto. Where the revenues come from? Basically, water sales. It's primarily the user pay. So you can see that 70% of the revenue comes from water sales. Starting at the top there, the reserve funds, 4%. Those are program reserves. They're not pulling in for emergency reserve. That's R&R funds primarily that are programmed to take care of the infrastructure. Funds brought forward, that's money that's maintained at the end of the year in the balance sheet of the accounts. Other includes the membership fees that each of the 4 members pay. Grants, I'm glad to say that last year was pretty much nil. This year, this year it's 8%. And I think going forward, when we get the SWIFT funding lined up with the pipelines and hopefully more state funding, that will continue on the upside. And of course, CIP funds contributed by member contributions. Our water rates, pretty similar to how you bill your retail customer, base rate, which is the fixed by water allocation, and the water use rate, which is the actual meter delivery. Debt service is pretty much the primary change in the base rate components. All our members are worked into the base rate, their debt service, project related, and how much partnership they have within that. The fixed and owing costs are on a unitary rate basis and incorporated into the base rate of each member. Here's the historical base rate charge. You can see that over the last 5 years, they've been very, very consistent. So even though the water demands have been going up consistently over the years, we have maintained the base rate very, very consistent. The historical water use rate, which is the actual meter water use, has even been more consistent. Held that number for 74 cents for the last 5 years. That consists of chemical costs primarily and power costs. So that number we will be reevaluating based on the power costs. So the budget process itself, we're off to the start here to provide you with the process expectations. There'll be a lot of coordination with your staffs, administration, your boards, external agencies, and the public. Everything will be posted on the website and totally accessible. So we'll be back to you in April with our budget. Any questions?
No, I don't see any, Pat.
So, well, no question, but I really would, I mean, there's no motion here because this is just an update, but I'll just talk about it now instead of under comments. I really would like us to look at the solar option because at 25 million gallons a day, is that what we're putting out?
Pretty much in that
Okay.
area, yes.
So if we added a penny, that's almost $9 million that we could raise rates for 1 year, and that's probably more than enough money to set up a solar farm, or, I mean, I don't even know what the cost would be, but we could do one quick chunk, put it in, and then what's our annual FPL bill right now?
It's approaches 2 million. I think your penny, you lost a decimal there a couple places.
Well, it's a penny per 1,000 gallons, right? I'm sorry, you're right. It's
Just to be clear,
you're right.
trust me,
It's 90,000. I'm sorry, you're right.
I'm trenching the staff's mind. What does a penny mean?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, but still, I mean, I think it's worth looking
yeah.
at. Yeah, 'cause I don't even know how many kilowatts we use. I don't know what the size of the farm would be. So maybe somebody could do some quick calculations and bring it back to the next meeting as an agenda item, just to sort of fill us in on where we were, how much more efficient things are now, and how more cost effective it is, and what would the options be.
Kevin loves doing that kind of stuff.
It's our science.
It's a Kevin.
All right. That's a Kevin deal. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
General Counsel's report.
I don't have anything this month. Thank you.
Mr. Lehman, do you have anything else?
Just one quick item that, of course, the legislation is off to a roaring start. We have submitted the water project both in the House and the Senate. Senator Grimsley has agreed to sponsor it on the Senate side. Representative Grant and Representative Miller have agreed to sponsor on the House side. One thing is, of course, bills keep getting submitted. In the past, there's been bills on a state water board, which we've always put it in our prior legislative priorities that we do not support the creation of additional bureaucratic state water board or council. Just when you think it's dead, another bill got submitted last week to create a state water council, which would oversee funding, basically circumvent SWIFMA and others. So I sent this out the other day, and I'd like to ask the board to amend our legislative policies to include the statement, support the allocation of state funds for water infrastructure without creating additional bureaucracy by establishing a state water board or council. And that's primarily language we've had in the past, but we dropped it out this year and would like to put it back in.
Do we have that on the work pages? Okay.
It got emailed out, so.
Okay. So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to add that to our legislative priorities. Any other comment? We still have a quorum. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Chair votes aye. That moves forward 3-0. Commissioner Benak has left the meeting.
That's all.
Is that it? Okay. And the routine status reports are just that. Can we do board comments and public comments before the facility tour?
Yeah, I'll ask everybody's schedule. I know it got later than we thought. Maybe our counselor too, that we could adjourn the meeting and we could take you individually for those that want to go rather than as a group. Would that be better sunshine-wise?
If we go, we'll stay far apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not talk.
Yeah. But we can't. We wouldn't be talking on the tour anyway.
That's right. That's right. Board member comments. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure, I went over this with Mr. Lehman in pre-agenda, but I want to get it on the record. The last 3 payments to Ray Pilon at $3,750 each, that ends his contract, and you will not be renewing the contract with Mr. Pilon?
Correct. His contract terminated at the end of December 2016.
Okay, thank you.
I have anyone from the public who wishes to speak. Seeing no one come forward, we are adjourned.